Well, we
Oh my
want to
goodness.
welcome you. We want to welcome you to another Marcio Week show on
Ah,
Monday evening. And look who is back with us. Oh my goodness. Really great to have you back, Marcio. I can tell you that we missed you, and we're certainly looking forward to a great night tonight. And we know it's going to be particularly that way because you're back in the driver's seat and I'm in the navigator's seat. So, really
well,
great to have you back.
it's great to be back. And I listen. I was off air telling this the Dr. Ferdinand that I couldn't ask for a better person to sit in the seat. So what I'm saying, I'm not. We're not just saying this because I'm on air. It is what it is. I am very, very grateful that Dr. Ferdinand, His Excellency Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, would be able to
Amen.
find the time to sit in this chair and to come to you every night. And let me tell you something, I miss the people. I was, I was in Tobago, and at night I would try to make sure I sneak to take a look on it on the to see everybody. But I missed you all. But Tobago is so beautiful. It's a
Oh, it is.
beautiful
It
beauty.
is a
Oh my
beautiful. Did
gosh.
you get to go to Nylon Pool?
Nylon pool. No, I did a lot of
Oh my
hiking. I love to
goodness.
hike. So we went on the lots
Okay,
of
okay.
falls, Rainbow Falls and Twin River Falls and
Yes, yes.
Argyle Falls. And it was beautiful. It was
It's a
just
beautiful
beautiful.
island. It's a beautiful island. We've done several meetings there over the years, and I remember Nylon Pool particularly and Boko Reef, because that was the time I slipped off the
Yes.
side of the something like the Buccaneer vessel, and I'm not a swimmer, but I slipped off the side with my vest on and my snorkels, and I went, and I had never seen such a beautiful setting in my life. Marcia, there
Wow.
were fishes of
It's
all color. Just
beautiful.
one
Oh
fish
my
had
God.
about
Yeah.
50 colors on it. It was just gorgeous, absolutely
Yes,
gorgeous,
awesome, awesome,
absolutely gorgeous.
awesome.
Amen.
And
But
look,
good to be back.
yeah,
Good to be back.
yes, good to be here. I feel excited. I feel excited.
Amen.
And
Yes.
look, Joy Faith is on. Hi, Joy. Joy said, "Don't give up. Keep pressing through opposition. God is still in control." Correct. And
Yes,
I'm
he
seeing
is.
Joy.
Yes.
I'm seeing one of my favorite people on, but he's upside down at the moment, and he's trying to get on, but he's upside down.
Now he's
I,
leaning.
I
Now
want
he's leaning to his side. His side. Now he's leaning to his
leaning to
side.
a side, leaning to a side, but he's fixing
Ah.
himself, Doyan, to come on. You soon see who's one of my favorite people. They're coming on. Monica
And
Ince. We have to say good night to Monica Ince.
yes,
Yes,
and Pauline Maynard is
blessings to
there,
all.
and Sir Alfred Benjamin is back from Brooklyn, New York. We
Yes.
had someone on the other night from the United Kingdom, a couple of people from the United Kingdom, some from Ontario in Canada, some from not only Brooklyn but I think Maryland
Yes.
as well. Oh my goodness, I tell you, and it's so good to
Yes.
see all of them. I've asked those that
Everton
are on
Hunt.
that are
Look at
not from
Everton
Barbados.
Hunt.
Yes. Yeah, good night. Nylon pool is a must. You see, he agrees.
Oh, but yeah, okay. But did you all go? Did you all see Rainbow Falls? Did you see
Yes,
Rainbow Falls?
yes, yes, I
You
did.
did?
Gorgeous.
Oh,
Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely
gorgeous.
gorgeous.
I started to applaud when I saw it. I just like, oh, I
Yes,
started to sing and applaud. It was beautiful. And
yes, that's right. That's
yeah,
right.
it's good.
And
Good
what
to
was
be
the other
here
place
though.
you said again? The other place you said you went to in hiking? There was
It's
another place.
the Twin River Falls.
Yes, Twin River Falls. That's it.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes, yes,
yes.
yes,
That was
yes.
that's where
Okay.
actually where I began to learn to swim. Actually, believe it or not, in Tobago.
Oh wow. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, lovely, lovely having all of these.
Yes,
Marlene
yes.
Seeley is back, and thank you for your kind remarks. ADG. That sounds like the person that's getting ready to be the Attorney General. ADG. One wonderful,
Listen,
wonderful.
listen, there's so
Oh,
many
dear me.
things that happened while I was away. And I was there just trying to catch up with everything. But as I said, it's still good to be away. It is still good to be away, but I
Oh,
missed
yes. Oh,
everybody
yes.
so very, very much. I really did. And what's on your mind tonight? I know we're seeing a lot of changes. I think that 2024 Barbados sits. Put on your seatbelts. Put on your seatbelts, Barbados, because 2024, I believe, is going to be a
It's
year
going to
of
be a ride.
changes to this country. What are your thoughts?
It's going to be a ride of your life in 2024. I tell you, I'm
Yeah.
excited about it. I'm excited about some of the things I'm hearing. Of course, Barbados is a small country, and it's undoubtedly a fact that when you start to hear things, they're more likely than not true rather than just rumor. But I'll wait to hear the actual realities of things. And of course, Marcia, the situation with Guyana and Venezuela. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
That is up front and center, and we have to be careful that it doesn't override all the other things that are relative to us here nationally.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
It's
think
a
you
big.
know why I'm laughing. I think you
Hmm.
know why I'm laughing.
Somebody saying opposition or witches are coming together. Elections will be sooner than we think. I can't wait for Caswell to get on here this evening. Seem to be having some challenges, but Caswell is coming on. He's coming on. Aren't we excited about that?
Oh
Yes,
yes, I
I
certainly
think
am.
he's on now. Yes, he's straight now.
Right
Oops.
side up.
Did you hear me say you're straight now? I meant your picture is straight now. Let's clarify that.
we,
Dear me.
we
Uh,
clarified that the other night. The
Caswell,
them shopper was up.
Caswell, Caswell, language changes, man. I remember one time when ice used to be something you put in a drink to chill it, and Coke was something that you use from a beverage bottle. But
Hmm.
straight now.
Yeah, yeah, remember, I always tell
Uh,
people, Flintstones used to have a song that they had a gay old time. Good boy, remember that?
oh
You know,
yes, I do.
and
Yes, I
now,
do.
you know, yeah, we didn't think that Barney and
Uh,
Fred was doing anything wrong. You know?
oh my
Listen,
goodness.
listen, people, listen. It's so good to see Caswell again. We really we we have a real camaraderie with each other. We respect and love one another,
Yes,
and that's
yes.
good to see. That's good to see. I know. They can't wait. They can't wait for something to happen, and then they hear somebody cursing the next. We're not happening. That's not happening over this side.
No, no, no,
We
no,
No,
really
no,
love
no.
one another.
that happens at Sam Lord's Castle, not here.
Listen, I live not near to Sam Lords, so be careful. I'm walking, I'm close, close, close. But
Dear me. But I don't know what Sam Lord's Castle you're talking about. You mean Wyndham? Is it Wyndham you mean, Caswell?
I think they call it that now. I think
Okay,
Vietnam
okay.
operates it.
Because I don't think anything like what we might have heard could happen at Sam Lord's. It may happen at Wyndham.
Mm.
you know, when I just came to Barbados, right? We could go on our veranda and we could watch the fireworks at Sam Lords. Well, I think
Yes.
they had fireworks down there the other day. They just started back the
And you
hotel,
and
and
you
it seemed
just
like
didn't go on your veranda.
and all the fireworks. So, Caswell, tell us all about these fireworks. And we hear like a lot of red flames bursting and going all over the place, and we see the sprinkle over there and another sprinkle and the red flames all over the place. Talk to us about this fireworks up at Sam Lords, please.
You may say
Wyndham.
so, but I cannot possibly comment.
No, I don't know much. I'm only hearing second-hand news. I wasn't there. I'm hearing that the Queen Bee is not happy with the drones because they're not workers. They got to be drones. That
Oh, dear Father.
But you don't convert drones to workers, but that's what she's trying to do, because she thinks that she is doing it all,
Uh-huh.
and they think so too, but they think that she's doing it all wrong. But I could have told them that, So we'll have to wait and see if any of them grow a pair
Well,
and
I
leave.
don't know. I don't know. I've been
Or orange or whatever.
I've been having a problem with bees here on my house as well, on my eve of my home, and I discovered something that actually gets rid of them. Garlic,
Yes.
Garlic,
Mhm.
garlic. Yes.
garlic. So we need some garlic. Is that what we need?
You need a ton.
Oh, dear me.
So tell me something. So you what am I was looking at my WhatsApp while I was away, and I'm like, what am I reading here? And they're saying that there's a lot of fireworks up there and lots of things happening. And no, I was speaking to someone today, and they are telling me that they have good source, Mr. Franklin. This is a good source that they were canvassing in St. Joseph with Ryan Brathwaite, one of a lawyer, and that that's what they were doing, because they're getting ready for the AG, the Attorney General, to be, I guess they're going to give him a new job, and so
No,
his
not necessarily. I understand he's outlived his usefulness. Not that he was ever useful, but and he doesn't believe that he'll win again. The Barbados Labour Party has a way in St. Joseph of coming in there, because St. Joseph supports the Barbados Labour Party just once when they did it. And they come in there, they turn the people off, and they bring somebody else in, because you remember Johnny Cheltenham came in, and he lost his seat in Christchurch.
Who you said came in? What's the person?
Johnny Cheltenham.
Okay.
Right? The sleeper, no, I mean the chairman of the Parliamentary Review Committee. Sorry for saying sleeper. I meant chairman. The chairman of the Parliamentary Review Commission, and he came down from after losing his seat. He decided, well, look, since Joseph is a good BLP area, and most likely any BLP person going there would win. And he decided, I'm running in Christchurch again, because by then he had pissed off the people in Christchurch. So he went to St. Joseph, and the people embraced him. But then again, he didn't. Yeah. He did very little, close to nothing, if nothing at all. And then, of course, he realized that the boot was on the foot and it was coming for his rear, so he jumped. And Dale Marshall went in. Now the same procedure that Johnny Cheltenham did, Dale Marshall has done. Gone in there, get the people angry, and now he's looking to put somebody else in place. I don't know if they will give him another job, because I've been hearing as CJ, but Lord, if he can't compare with me and with the law, I don't know he could be Chief Justice, because I've never been to law school, and I've been making him look stupid. So I hope that is just a rumor.
Well, maybe they might be prepping him.
Go ahead, Reverend.
No, I was thinking maybe they're prepping him for another international position, like the gentleman that was on the advisory committee for economics, that is now being shifted to the United Nations Climate Change Committee. And maybe they're prepping him for that type of a job.
No, well, trust me, I will tell you, that is the best thing that happened to Barbados for a while. So don't start it, because he's gone. I don't care how he went, as long as he's gone, because he's been totally useless. And you notice, though, in the write-up from the UN body, they didn't mention professor.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I
I noticed
noticed
that.
that.
I
I
noticed that a
noticed
minute
that.
before anybody else told me. I said, look, you know
And in
what?
the interview. And in the interview. Did you see the interview he did?
But my stomach wasn't feeling so good, so I was starting to heave, so I stopped
Okay.
because he wasn't answering the questions, and
Yeah.
it seemed as though he didn't know what to say, you know. But he thought that he could bluff his way through, and I said, look, this man is embarrassing Barbados. He's embarrassing me. I can't take on this no more, so I turned off, you know. But one thing that caught me, he says he was an academic economist. When did that
Yes.
happen? When did that happen?
Ah,
Not because giving 3 lectures at Gresham College is not an academic thing, you know. Because that is how he got the professorship. I told you what Gresham College is.
Yes.
yes.
Good. So they just give public lectures. They don't have students. They don't issue degrees. Nothing like that. It was just
Mm-hmm.
established to educate people. So they would do 104 lectures a year. And of course, he found his way in there, and gave a few lectures, and then called himself. No, he stopped going. So they said, "Well, this is Professor Emeritus."
Well,
Listen.
You can use it for 3 years, Professor
you,
Gresham College. But he
Caswell,
walked around the place.
I was doing some virtual sessions with some folk out of Africa, and they wanted to make me a professor just because I was doing the virtual sessions with them. So I declined it. So I don't know how he got his professorship. I can't treat to that, but it seems that it can be quite easy on occasions.
But it was. I can go
Yeah.
and give a few lectures, and I get myself called professor too. You know, um, I'm not thinking about it though.
Okay.
But
You know?
but that there's something though that I want to point out to you guys, and going to send it to both Mr. Franklin and Dr. Ferdinand. If you would check your it's forward so many times that okay, so I'll know I sent it to Dr. Ferdinand and I'll send it to you, Mr. Franklin. This is an article um, where he was being recommended, and I wanted to note something because we are only focusing on one area. But look, if you look, this is coming from the desk of Elon's desk. And it says, "Dear colleagues, in September, I communicated the approval by the Board of Executive Directors for the creation of the Office of the Special Advisor on Climate Change." Listen. "And the Office of the Special Advisor on Gender and
Gender and
Diversity."
diversity.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Saw it.
right. So he is and it says, "We also announced a competitive recruitment and selection process for the special advisors for these offices." So here it is that Mr. Avinash Prasad, he's not just going to be the advisor on climate change, but it's an advisor on gender and diversity from Barbados. So you got to watch that as well. You saw that, Mr. Franklin?
You know, I was laughing all the way through, and I really saw gender diversity, but I didn't even click. You know, because again, it just shows that these people around the world are a bunch of bluffers, and they create a group of bluffers, and they pass them around. What does he
Yeah.
know about climate change? What does he know about gender and diversity? The man is not even what he purports to be, but he claims that he has training in, and now he's going to be something else. He went to the
Yeah.
airport and he claimed that he did the negotiation that was completed before it began, because I keep telling people here, they say, oh, we're going to soon conclude, but the Arabs already had a man working at the airport in the number 2 position. So they just sold us out. I challenge him to deny that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell
You
you something.
know,
I'm going to tell you something. My members are ready to walk if they don't talk to them, because they are now on my back to approve industrial action. Because if action is not approved by a union, you are absent without permission. If it is approved by the union, it is industrial relations, and so you can't deal with them. You can't do anything to them. So I am just there waiting now for my final consultation with them before I give the go ahead to take action, because there are many workers decided, well, look, we gonna walk off if we don't hear what's happening. Quick, so I get a call from the minister who telling me that the prime minister said to talk with me, and they gave us a lot of bogus information, which I know was untrue, but I wanted to see what will happen after that. So the demonstration didn't come off because the workers then had a meeting and they were not satisfied, but at least they were informed, because all along nobody was telling them anything. Now, we are hearing announcements by the prime minister, we're hearing everybody else, and the people who are going to be most affected, the workers, have not heard anything. They saw it in the Barbados today. You know, they are seeing their futures are being spoken about in the Barbados today.
What did they see in the Barbados today? What it is? You're talking about Bra, right? Bra?
No, I'm not. No, I'm talking about the airport people.
Airport, yes.
Yeah, you know,
so what are they seeing? What are they seeing?
They saw in Barbados today that these things will happen by the end of this month, and the transition will happen then. But they've not been hearing anything. They just read that in the newspaper. As a matter of fact, they were circulating the Barbados today story and asking me if I got anything. Nobody call me again. These people want to ignore the rights of Barbadian workers, even ignore decency. You know, they decided this is what we're going to do, and they're going to do it. And the people who have mortgages and children and to put food on their tables and stuff, you aren't telling them what will happen with them. Then the prime minister will come out and say something completely different than what we heard the last time, because we heard, and they made noise about it, that there's a group of people at the airport who the Arabs don't want. They don't want to be responsible for them because they are not a profit center. They don't make money. But what they do, they keep the airport running. So they want the government of Barbados to pay for those people. These are the people who keep the lights at the airport on, who keep the tower communicating with the planes. You know, you can't. The airport cannot operate without them.
Right.
But the Arabs only want sections of the airport that will make money. So these people don't make money. So they don't want to have them on their payroll, because they will have to be paying them all the time. So they said that they were going to take them back into the public service. Remember, they were all public service before the airport transitioned into this Grand Island International Airport, Inc. So now they want to transition these group of workers, these electronic technicians, back into the public service. I had to point out to them it is not as easy as going one way to the next, because the airport now is a company established under the Companies Act, and you're going to have to pay severance. Or people jump. So they didn't realize that. You know, nobody didn't realize it. I said, no. The severance is simple. If you no longer have work for these people, their job no longer exists in your company, then you have to pay them severance. So they went back to the drawing board because they didn't factor that in. The other union didn't factor it in either. As a result, they got some members from them, so I don't mind. Because when they heard that, they heard me push forward that in the meeting. You know, it was news because the government they could just pick them up and do what they had to do with national insurance. The terrorists, the people at national insurance, and that shameless man got in the house and said, "Oh, the workers came over with 92%." The people were frightened. They were telling them that they're going to send them home and they won't get anything and that kind of stuff. And people threatened them. And of course, then they bribed a few people. And the people decided, well, look, you know, I know of one guy who was actually retired, and the staff collected money for him to have for retirement function. And the National Insurance Board up his salary by $2,000, so he take back his retirement papers.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. He's a friend of mine, we went to school together and everything, man. So I'm not laughing at him. I'm just laughing at his situation.
You're laughing with him.
Yes.
Yes.
But all kind of madness happen.
Yeah.
And I tell you, the government, I tried to get Sarah Flood Broadbent to confirm what it was saying that the act to carry the national insurance was not properly passed in the House of Assembly or the Senate. So it is questionable. But of course, who will question them? There's no opposition in the House. And they do what they like.
No opposition as yet.
Well, the Sam Lawrence Castle might determine that.
Derby.
But if they're going to do it quickly.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
right now they are breaking every rule, and don't care. You imagine, and I call it dictatorship, because if tyranny, whatever you feel like calling it, that you have at best anarchy. You have rules to follow. You don't follow those rules, and you continue as you wish. That's anarchy. Because if everybody decides to ignore the rules, what will happen? And if the government of Barbados refuses to follow the rules that they made to govern themselves, if they refuse those rules and refuse to follow them, how are you going to ask the fellow down the road that ain't working to follow the rules that say you ain't to go in people's house? Better than home. You have to lead by example. You have to show an example for people to follow. You have to set the example. Do as they say and not as they do. Don't work. You have to set an example.
That's right.
I'll give you an example of my own self. When I had my children small, I'm in town. I'm across the opposite Cape Shepherd. I walk over the Cape Shepherd by the bank. I could easily run through the traffic and cross the road. No, I walk up to the traffic lights, walk across and come back down with my children. I wanted them to know that there are rules. When they're not there, of course, I used to run across the road. You know what I mean? But when you have responsibility for people, you have to set an example. And this government does not know what an example is.
And that is what leadership is. But we're going to continue talking about Barbados. But then, Dr. Nichols, we have to focus our attention on what's happening in Guyana and what's happening in Venezuela, because I believe that whatever is going on with them, Mr. Franklyn, it's going to affect us here in Barbados and in the other islands. And we have the Honorable Coretta McDonald, this fearless woman. I just love her. I told her today I'm going to go to Guyana. I need to go and visit her in Guyana. And she's with us, and she's going to give us an update on what is happening. And I know you guys will have some questions for her. So let's welcome the Honorable Coretta McDonald to the program. Welcome.
Well, good evening to you again, Marcy, and good evening to you guests. And good evening
welcome.
Welcome.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you again.
And it's good to meet you. Good to meet you.
You too. But you know what? I was saying to Marcia earlier, we need to link up in Guyana or Barbados, and blow some waves somewhere.
Well, my experiences with Guyana go all the way back from President, President. Oh my goodness, Hoyt, from Desmond Hoyt all the way back. I've had a relationship with Guyana. Some of my best friends are Guyanese, as a matter of fact, and it's a real pleasure to meet you. We've had some input into the moral fabric of Guyana through our crusades. Marcia, we did many crusades in Guyana, with John Smith and John Cummins in those days, and with Sir Lionel Lecoux
Mhm.
as well. A very close friend of ours at the time. He was with the Full Gospel Businessmen's International Fellowship. And so we have fond memories of Guyana. The first place I tasted the sweetest pineapples on the planet,
Guyana.
Guyana. Yes.
I want to go. I want to go. But but go ahead,
Well,
Mr.
you see,
Franklin.
not to be outdone. He's talking about his connections with Guyana. Well, I have connections too.
Okay.
I have two Guyanese children.
I am staying out of that. I am simply not getting.
So,
Jerry.
one so far, I've insisted that she get a passport, and I made sure she get a Guyanese passport because I want her to know what her roots are and make sure that. I told her initially. I said, look, Guyana might be down now. I ain't gonna stay down. I want you to be able to go to Guyana and be able to invest down there. And she said, so she isn't ready for investment yet because she's now graduated, but she has a passport. Last little one. So
that's wonderful.
You beat me.
Well,
that's too.
But that's why we are so all concerned about Guyana and Venezuela and what's happening there. So we have Honorable McDonald here with us. And ma'am, we want you to give us an update. The last time you were here, you said December 3rd there was going to be a referendum in Venezuela. And I know that Guyana tried to stop them from doing the referendum, but they were allowed to proceed with the referendum. And today is December 4th. So we want to know, we've always planned to have you back on to give us an idea of what's happening on the ground in Guyana, what's going on.
Well, let me say to you and to everyone else that in Guyana, our citizens are, even though they are uneasy a little bit, things are normal. As a matter of fact, yesterday and the days leading up to December 3rd, we would have had lots and lots of activities. We had the schools across this country, the students and the pupils and all the learners here, they had separate programs in their schools. They were reciting, they were doing acoustics, they were singing national songs. They had the colors of the flags, and they had flags and they were waving them all around in their schoolyards. We had symposium where the Minister of Education on one occasion, or on two occasions, she moderated a symposium where you had former Minister of Finance and Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Carl Greenwich, who's our person on the International Court of Justice, who's giving evidence there for us. He was there at one of our premier schools, along with the leader of the Alliance for Change Party, Mr. Honorable Kemar Tramchitan. He was also there. And we had other symposiums across the country where our students were finding out, well, what happens on December 3rd? What happens after December 3rd? And so they were given the kind of assurances that we are with the courts, that this matter is in the courts, and we await the decision of the courts, and we are confident that the court is going to rule in our favor. While there were a whole lot of anxiety amongst our people who are living on the borders, we had to reassure them. As a matter of fact, the President Ali, went to two or three of our border communities and reassured the citizens there that all will be well and they don't need to worry. We also had the issue of we had day of prayer. We had a day of prayer across the country. We had a day of unity where hands were held and stretched across all areas. We had a patriotic concert last evening, well, yesterday into last evening, and we had several ministers across the country meeting with our citizens. Unfortunately, though, members of the opposition were not included in that. As a matter of fact, I think I shared with you that we had Parliament. There was a special sitting of Parliament that was called. And at that forum, even before that forum, the leader of the opposition gave the full commitment of the opposition that we are in full support of this motion, where we will stand together on this one. But unfortunately, while all of these activities were unfolding everywhere across this country, the opposition was absent from all of this. And, you know,
let me ask you a
it
question there.
sends a very, very daring message. Go right ahead.
I wanted to ask you, before you go on to that, I wanted to ask you, because I know that there has been quite a divide in Guyana racially. And I'm listening to you talk about, you know, hands being held, and there is just a sense of patriotism. Do you think that with this impending danger, that it has dispelled all of that disunity and the fraction between the Indians and the blacks? Do you think, and people of African descent, do you think that all of that has just gone off into, you know, into oblivion because of what is coming, what they perceive might be coming to Guyana?
Well, you know, I'm smiling because when, as a matter of fact, let me say to you, our people live as one. We are scattered in communities and we mix together. Of course, there are some communities that are predominantly East Indians, predominantly Afro-Guyanese, but there are lots of mixed communities. As a matter of fact, our people, like I started saying before, we live together as Guyanese. It's the politicians who usually divide our people, especially when it comes to when it's coming around to elections time. The PPP, let me say, the PPP they use that race game as their platform when it's time for elections, and then they will talk about what Burnham did way back when, and what Hoyt did, and what is happening now. They cast all these shadows that that Afro-Guyanese don't like Indo-Guyanese. But, you know, things are changing somewhat around this country, because we have recognized, and it's recognized all over in this country, that the PPP, they are not inclined to expose their people, and those are the communities that they dominate, or the regions they dominate. They are not inclined to exposing them to higher education, and that is primarily because they know once you expose them, then they'll know and they'll find out for themselves what is happening. They prefer to keep them there, like one of my colleagues said, keep them there mentally lazy, so that everything you say to them, they believe. But we have recognized that quite a lot of our citizens, especially East Indian citizens, the young boys and the young girls, the young men and the young women, they are going off to university, they're intermixing with others. And so when they intermix with others and they're learning new cultures, they don't buy some of what the PPP are spilling to them every time. But the thing is, the PPP will continue to use the race game in order to win elections. They go out there and play on the emotions of the East Indian Guyanese. And you know, when they paint that picture, you feel as if there's no other hope but to hold on to the PPP or to vote for the PPP. But what has been happening leading up to December 3rd, Guyanese have been saying, we are Guyanese. We are Guyanese. As a matter of fact, the PPP, they have sought to erase every achievement that Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham has made in this country. They have sought, as a matter of, let me say this, they have removed, we had in Guyana, we had the Guyana Defense Force, the Guyana Police Force, the Guyana Fire Service, and we had the Guyana Prison Service. In addition to those, we had the Guyana People's Militia and the Guyana National Service. When the PPP came to power, they disbanded those two arms because those two arms reminded them primarily of LFS Burnham. And so they want nothing to do with Burnham. Anything that has to do with Burnham or the achievements of Burnham, they disregard them. Even to some of our monuments, they have allowed them to deteriorate because those monuments reminded them of Burnham. But coming to December 3rd, Guyanese all over were scared. that something serious would happen. More so because of the fact that all of these Venezuelans were allowed to invade Guyana. Let me use those words, invade Guyana. With the approval of the PPP government, they were allowed to come here unchecked in many, many instances. So you weren't sure who were teachers, who were masons, who were military men, who were medical. You did not know. And the PPP at that point could give you the kind of information that you asked for, like how many Venezuelans are here? Where are these Venezuelans? Are we monitoring what they're doing? They don't give those kinds of information because the plan then and still is that we are going to allow the Venezuelans to come here and we are going to use them for the purpose of elections so they can come here to vote. That was their plan. But there's a saying that says God don't like ugly. And so a part of that backfired, where we were now running helter-skelter, now confirming that yes, some of the persons who were here are military trained persons. Some of them are probably spies. Some of them are criminals who ran from Venezuela and these kinds of things. We have recognized that since these Venezuelans started coming to Guyana, we've had increased murders in this country. Severe chopping, let me say that, severe chopping of persons. You're chopping persons as if you're cutting up beef in the market. Let me say it that
Oh
way.
my gosh.
That in itself brought a lot of fear on Guyanese, especially those who were living on the edges, on the borders. Like I said, we had loads and loads of activities that were planned, but unfortunately, the opposition was not involved in this. And we've been saying, look, let's join hands, go out there, distribute these stickers that you stick on your cars. Let's distribute pamphlets. Let's do things to let our people see that we are working together. But you know what? The PPP, they only believe in a lot of talks about unity and unity and unity, but in actual fact, it's far from what they do. Their actions tell you a different story. We saw the president going to the border areas.
Exactly.
Are you hearing me? Yes. So we saw the president.
You're breaking up sometime, but generally we are. Go ahead.
Yes, we saw the president going out there to meet with the Guyana members of the Guyana ranks from the Guyana Defense Force and so on. And we're saying when the president is going out there, since we had a united stand in Parliament, why aren't we seeing the opposition leader going there with him? Why aren't we seeing members of the member of Parliament, the opposition, going out with other ministers when they're going to different parts? And so in many instances, the members of the opposition, like myself, we were in different quarters. And so it's as if we have a house and the house is divided. So mommy with one set of the children, they're doing one thing, and daddy with another set of the children doing something else. And this in itself is saying to us that while we are talking about Guyana belong to us and Essequibo belongs to us and we are Guyanese, the actions portray a different message.
But those actions will make sure that Essequibo becomes Venezuelan, because you have to stand together. You know, we have too much rabid politics in the Caribbean. You know, and there's I hate to say this, but when you were saying about raising Burnham from he tried to raise everything that he did, I start to smile because the same thing is happening here. You know, this time it's with Barry, but Burnham and Barry were pretty good friends, so I don't know, they go all in one time. And it is these two good friends that are doing it. So they cannot be doing these things and then appear to be working with the opposition. You see, that is their problem. But if they do not work with you, you will lose. Guyana will lose. And then Guyana will be very much smaller than what it is because you're divided amongst yourselves, you know. You have to stand up. And this time, you know, circle the wagons, get everybody into the same thing and work together. You got to stop this stupidity. You know that we have it. We have. There's not racism that we have here, but the same thing applies. Ours is party politics, B's and D's. You know, and the same thing is happening. But nobody wants to take over Barbados now, and right now nobody would want to because we're going to pay all this debt. But Ghana, please. You know, I still want my daughter to invest down there, you know. So if you don't stand up and stand together, she would have to keep a few cents that she's earning, you know, and don't bother about going back down there because she got this prize for Spanish at high school. So, you know, so you got to be very careful. This is a no-brainer. No, but when we have politicians who are myopic and they have one thing in view, office, not necessarily working for the people, you know, because that is the politicians that we have here, Barbados, Guyana, St. Vincent. They are not interested in the people. They're interested in office and they're interested in what the office can bring. And we have to stop that. And you have, and in Guyana, you have to call them out and call them out publicly. In order to get, see, the thing is, you have, I know, Guyanese Indians, East Indians, they come here and they live good with black people and that kind of stuff. They don't hate black people. But politicians will do that to you. Politicians will do that to you. I remember when I was a little boy, Vincentians and St. Lucians and everybody came to Barbados and everybody was one big happy family and all kind, no problems at all. But you know, but then when the politicians run into problems, I remember David Thompson saying to the Guyanese, ever so welcome, wait for a call, you know? And they were here and they were working and many Guyanese realized that they were not welcome. A lot of them head back home. And as a result, I am paying $6 a pound for sweet potatoes now. And you know, you know, that is a side effect of policy, you know. Because I am paying $7 or $8 for yams, $6 a pound for sweet potatoes, and Coretta, Coretta costs now, but you know, I eat Guyanese too, see. And that is the problem. We don't realize that we are one people. And
you see,
I see people, a lot of people. Go ahead, Honorable.
You see, the thing is, we have moved from the men and women who we had that stood for their people without wanting to get rich overnight and wanting to have that kind of control. We have moved from that. So we have politicians now who are only interested in themselves, like you said. And so in Guyana, we have the sick here in Guyana, which we call the 3 F's: family, friends, and favorites. So every time a contract is issued, when you do your background work, then you recognize it's a friend of, it's a family of. And so that's the circle that is being maintained. So every time the masses continue to suffer while you have a chosen few, the elite few, who benefit from everything. In Guyana here, we grow pumpkin and we grow belange and squash and okras and tomatoes and you name it, we have it here. But you know what? One slice of pumpkin is 1,000 Guyana dollars. Okras, you can hardly buy that. Celery, you can hardly buy. The ordinary man could hardly buy celery. You know, and these are just basic things. You're not talking here about a tin of sausage, or you're not talking here about some turkey ham or something like that. You're talking about basic things. Eggs here carries a price. And every day, this small man is plunged deeper and deeper into the river of poverty. And Guyana's been dubbed the new Dubai of the Caribbean, but still you've got poverty on the rise in Guyana. So you keep wondering, where's the money going? Where this money is going? But you know what? You see very huge buildings are being constructed. You see them doing one road and two roads. 5 and 6 times over, because you know what? Somebody got to get a piece of the pie. And so it doesn't trickle down to the ordinary man. The contractor there is collecting it, and somebody else so, and somebody else so. We have everything, just about everything here. There's an issue, and there's corruption brewing in every single sector in Guyana. Just recently, we had a housing scandal. Before that, we had an ordinary employee, let me put it that way, an ordinary public servant who signed off on 211 million US dollars from Exxon. Signed that off, signed that right off, and the minister who's responsible for that ministry is saying he doesn't know about that, and he doesn't understand who gave that ordinary staff the authority to do that. And so there was this big scandal and outburst. And you know what happened after public outcry? That staff, he was suspended and he was given 15 days pay was deducted from his salary. Big joke, eh? After
That was
you have
it.
signed 211 million US dollars, all you did was to lose 15 days pay. And I've been asking all along, what is this young man's salary? Because I want to be able to say, well, okay, if they take out 15 days, maybe that is equivalent to the 211 million US, or it's somewhere close to that. And for the minister to come out and tell this nation that the staff there did not get permission to do that, and that's all you could do, just a pat on the wrist. It is saying that somebody big is involved in that, because that employee couldn't do it by himself. Here again, just last week, we had, while we are hustling and bustling and worrying about Venezuela, we got a big housing scandal. And by the time we're not finished with that, we got another scandal where chicken is being imported into the country illegally, and there are allegations that senior members from the Ministry of Agriculture, including the Minister of Agriculture, that they are involved in this scandal. So it's corruption and more corruption and more corruption. And while we're fighting here, the president of Venezuela, Maduro, is making a whole lot of statements. But you know what? Like I said earlier, Guyanese are a little more comfortable now. But we cannot be too comfortable, because it was just yesterday that they had the voting. We have to see what will be happening after tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So we need not get too confident about and too comfortable that, on the 3rd, nothing happened. On the 4th, nothing happened. Because the Venezuelan government, especially their vice president, she has been making some very daring statements. And she has gone so far to say they don't care what the International Court of Justice says. They will go through with what they're going through with. And so they went through with their referendum. And they're saying that they will not recognize the decision coming out of the ICJ. But in all of that, we're happy that we were able to get the assurance coming from Brazil that they're with us. We got Colombia. Finally, we got coming from CARICOM, and we got coming from your Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that they are with Guyana, they are with the Guyanese people. And we've had several other supports coming from the international body that they are with. As a matter of fact, I said it before, the 1899 agreement saw Venezuela accepting the demarcation. As a matter of fact, there are stamps to show that Venezuela accepted the demarcation, and they printed stamps in their country to show all of that. But after all of that passed, and then 61 years later, after they would have renewed those agreements, 61 later, Venezuela is now coming up with the issue that Essequibo belong to them again. And so this whole craziness is boiling up. But behind all of this is greed. Behind all of this is greed. Because I can tell you, when this agreement was signed with the demarcation of the land, Venezuela lost land to Brazil, but they're not fighting Brazil, but they are playing bullies to smaller states. They lost lots of land to Venezuela. As a matter of fact, they gained land from us, and but they lost to Venezuela. But they're not going. They're as a matter not Venezuela. They lost land to
To
Brazil,
Brazil.
but they're not going after Brazil. But they want to claim 5/8 of Guyana. And I mean, is that fair? That cannot be fair. So we will continue to hold on to what we have here, and we'll continue to look to the ICJ and other partners for the kind of assistance and assurances. Because of course we can't fight
That you
Venezuela.
need. But no, but I'm looking here. Adrian is saying you can't trust the morning words of Mia Motley and Ralph Gonzalez. Now, remember you were on the program, and I'm so thankful for you, Honorable McDonald, because I believe because of what you said, and it went viral here in Barbados, that our Prime Minister came out and gave her assurance that she is with Guyana all the way, because she was making statements like Venezuela is a sister country of Barbados. But it wasn't long ago that I'm having here on my screen October 18th, right? Where about 6 weeks ago we had now this oil deal with Venezuela, where the acting minister of foreign affairs Jerome Walcott confirmed that we have this oil deal. And so my question is, what is going to happen with if here it is, our prime minister is saying that we are all for Guyana. What happens with this oil deal? What happened with our relationship, our sisterly relationship with Venezuela? I don't know if anybody can explain that. What is the impact then on Barbados?
Well,
The,
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
yeah, I'll tell you something. See, don't listen to Mia's public pronouncements. I want to hear what she told the people behind the scenes. I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. And Venezuela would have been assured, hey, don't worry, we have to say these things. Because or Maduro would have said you ain't getting our oil. As simple as that. I don't trust them.
Well, Caswell, I think this is a very serious matter that the Caribbean countries need to pay attention to. I don't know if you recall the oil agreements that Venezuela made with some of the West Indian territories, as far as Dominica, and then there was a contest for ownership of the oceans and the seas between Venezuela and Dominica.
Yeah.
And I believe it is still a issue. I can't remember all of the details of it now. It's been some years since that Venezuelan oil offer to the Caribbean that resulted in Venezuela trying to acquire the sea rights, the ocean rights, all between Venezuela and Dominica. And I think
Yes.
we need to pay very serious attention to this, because whatever happens between Guyana and Venezuela is
It
going to have a far-reaching impact on the rest of the Caribbean. And I believe that we need, and one of the things I will say, Madam MacDonald, is that I have been following this matter very closely. I watched the entire presentation of the International Court of Justice, where the inevitable ruling was that neither party would engage in any aspects whatsoever until the International Court gives their final decision. I also noted that in the referendum, that Maduro indicated that he wanted the people to vote off on the authority of the International Court of Justice, and I thought that was a very serious component
Yep.
of the referendum that he took yesterday, because what he's technically saying is that if the people of Venezuela are not going to recognize the decision of the International Court of Justice, then they're going to take matters into their own hands.
Yep.
And I will say that I'm encouraged to see not simply the Caribbean support, because let's face facts, nobody in the Caribbean has the military might to take on the Venezuelan army. Let's be brutally frank about that.
That's true.
We need international assistance. I was happy to see, for whatever I may think about them, I was happy to see the United States drop an aircraft on the ground with advisors and so forth, where your situation is concerned. And I believe that we need to pay some very serious attention to this. There was no question until oil was discovered off Essequibo. Let's be brutally frank. And as a matter of fact, Madam McDonald, I watched a video this afternoon that actually takes the matter of Guyana and Venezuela much further back, when the Dutch and the Spanish conflicted for the area, and actually Venezuela went through a couple of sessions or seasons where they tried to become independent, and then they were removed from their independence. So I think it's with either Dutch or Spanish. In the video I was watching, the young man took it all the way back, the history all the way back before your situation with Great Britain. Venezuela did not exist, and that was a reality when you had the historical influence of the Dutch and the Spanish in South America. So there, I'm hard pressed to understand why Venezuela is not prepared to look at the reality of history, and it is not just beginning at the point that you're referring to. It goes even beyond that. And I am concerned that they are refusing to acknowledge and accept the decision of the ICJ. Now, if that's the case, I wonder next, will we hear the United Nations making, and the Security Council of the United Nations making a comment on this matter? Because I believe it would be incumbent on the UN to defend Guyana in the face of the International Court of Justice's decision. And I would hope that that would be the case.
Well, we are hoping the same thing too. As a matter of fact, let me say that what Venezuela, they've been very smart, and they have been reaching out to Caribbean states. They've been reaching out to them, offering, trying to make these oil deals with them, knowing fully well that if they are able to cement these relationships where they supply oil,
precisely,
then you will have to take a position.
Precisely.
And I think that's the position that your prime minister was planning to take when she said Guyana and Venezuela better understand that the Caribbean zone is a peaceful zone, and Venezuela has always been a sister. And that is what sparked Guyanese, because Guyanese are saying, we have always been friends with Barbados. Where did Venezuela come from?
That's just exactly it.
Talking about oil and making this deal. So what has happened to the friendship that existed since back then with Lyndon Forbes, Sampson, Burnham, and Barrow, and all of these men? What has happened to that friendship? So I think your prime minister was trying to stand in the middle, to sit on the fence and not to say anything, because she did not want to offend Venezuela. But she offended Guyana and she offended Guyanese when she said, we must keep this zone a peaceful zone. What she failed to recognize is that if Venezuela were to do anything foolish, every single Caribbean territory,
that's right,
would be affected.
That's correct.
It's going
Absolutely.
to impact every single one of us. Therefore, it means that whether you had an oil deal or not, right must be right, and wrong must be wrong.
Must be wrong, correct.
Whoever is doing it,
correct.
You must condemn them. And that is why I did not hesitate to call out Prime Minister Mottley and Prime Minister Gonzalez, because they have always been friends of Guyana. And here it is, Guyana is in a crisis, and you are taking a stand back attitude. When you have been here meddling in all sorts of our business, internal affairs, and then now when we have an external force attacking us, you are deciding that you're going to stand back and fold your arms. No, it can't happen. We are sisters in CARICOM, And so the first line of support should be to your sister, not to your stepsister, but to your blood sister. That's where the first line of support ought to be. Again, Venezuela, like I said earlier, greed has taken them over. And so all the years before, they weren't interested in this part of Guyana, or they weren't aggressively doing what they're doing. But now, because of all this oil that they have recognized that we are finding all of these wells, they've decided that because they're a huge state, they will trample on a small state. If I'm to go a little further, Guyana was once a British colony, and Great Britain, and they had that agreement in 1899. Why Venezuela doesn't decide, look, I'm going to attack the UK. I'm going to deal with them, because we are now the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. We're no longer British Guyana. So why are you fighting us? We did not sign this deal with you. The persons, the colonials who owned Guyana, then they signed off on that agreement. Why don't you go there to find out what caused you to sign off? Why did Venezuela agree, and deal with them rather than coming here to pressure small Guyana? That is greed, and it's a form of bullyism, and we've got to stop that.
Well, Madam
I
McDonald,
don't.
just let me bring it clear, if I can. This is nothing to do with Guyana, you know. This is to do with the United States and Venezuela. That is what this is about. Because I believe the oil companies are American owned.
American owned.
I am correct in saying so. And I believe that this is an attempt to intimidate the United States. And I would strongly recommend to Venezuela not to do that. And the reason I'm saying that is because everywhere America puts its presence, China and Russia are going to put their presence. And suddenly we are going to find ourselves in one stinking global mess because of this matter. That is really the bottom line here. It really has nothing to do with Guyana.
I think you're giving Maduro too much credit. The man is a dumb oaf. Chavez wanted a vice president, somebody, but you're supposed to have one. And he picked any idiot. That idiot was Maduro. He was a bus driver. Don't forget. Maduro now has become so unpopular in Venezuela. He needs something to ignite his campaign. So that is Guyana. That's what he's trying. This nonsense about SUP, but he don't even believe it himself. But he needs something. This is an old strategy. You know, the French did it. The French and the English and Henry IV rather. When the England attacked France, because they said the new king wasn't very popular, so they want to make him popular to attack France. This is nothing new. What he is doing now is to try to appeal to his people and say, see, we are leading you against the enemy in Guyana. You know, and then of course when the country is at war, it's going to be very difficult for the opposition to side against the government, because that's called treason. So he is calculating. This isn't oil, this is anything, this is popularity, this is for him to stay in power. That is all that it is. Well, the oil will become a bonus, but that is not the real motive. Maduro wants to stay in power. A whole set of the people of Venezuela now live outside of Venezuela, and they are funding the opposition. And Maduro,
what is interesting, Caswell, is that there was only 50%, I understand, 50% of the electorate in Venezuela that actually participated in the referendum. And give you grant, 95% of them voted in favor of all 5 points on the referendum list. 5% did not. That means that we don't know the position of half the electorate in Venezuela, half of the people in Venezuela. We do not know what their view and their thought is. And I'm going to suggest to you that Maduro is doing this, and I understand he's an idiot. Okay, fine, I accept that fact. But he's doing this because of the embargo United States currently has on Venezuela, and it's
Yep.
really a slap in the face of the United States and attempting to use Guyana as a pawn in the process of drawing the United States into military conflict where Venezuela is concerned. And I have to say it as I see it, because I cannot put down another reason that he would be attempting at this point in time to do what he's doing. For what? I
If
mean,
he if he doesn't do if he doesn't do it now, he will not be reelected. He
Would
wants to
not
be
be. Yeah,
reelected.
that's true.
So it is all about his survival, you know.
and
Maduro
again,
is
and again, as we treat the CARICOM, look, we can't even agree on the Samoa agreement. Every CARICOM country has done its own thing on the Samoa agreement. When it came to shipwriters agreement, the CARICOM did not make a decision on shipwriters agreement. Every individual broke for themselves on the shipwriters agreement. And the problem is in CARICOM that our politicians cannot come together. Our people are together, guys. We have Guyanese, Indians, Guyanese, Negroes, Guyanese, Africans, Bajans. I have my daughter's godfather, incidentally, Madam McDonald, is Kiffin Simpson, who I
Okay.
understand has a large biochemical plant or something of that nature in Guyana, a few thousand acres of biofuel, I think it is, or something like that. I mean, these are the relationships that the people of the Caribbean have. We have Guyanese that have migrated here to Barbados. Marcia, I'm sure you know Lance Myers. He's on our forum on Monday on a morning. And Lance is a great friend of ours, and we don't have problems as people. The problem that we have is our political leadership that can't
Mhm.
come to a table and make a united decision on a single matter as CARICOM. If
Mhm.
anybody can point to any decision that was made by CARICOM on a global environment, I'd like you to show it to me.
I'll tell you about the chip right
Ah.
there. Gonzalez signed it, and then when he realized why Barbados didn't sign, he said he didn't think of that. He wasn't thinking. He was just out there. That was the fact. In Trinidad, on the other hand, the Attorney General's brother was on death row in Florida, and they said, "Well, I'm not saying somebody going to meet his maker." So Trinidad went and signed. So there are always strings, you know. Trinidad didn't want to sign, but it was for the Attorney General to say, "Bye bye, brother." They would have killed him. He was on death row.
Yeah.
You see, so it is somebody just pulling these strings, but the body ain't pulling Maduro strings right now. Maduro wants to remain in power, and the only way he thinks of doing that is to attack Guyana and
Yes.
then get the people. And what I've been seeing is that they're going into the schools and they're teaching the children all about, and they change the map of Venezuela to include Essequibo and tell them this is our territory and stuff. Those little children don't know anything about it. And if you are young and impressionable, just know you're going to be singing those same songs. It's the same thing they do here, including little children. So Guyana, even if Guyana wins, and I know that I believe that she will at the International Court of Justice, Venezuela going to ignore until such time as Maduro wins again.
Yes.
If he wins,
And,
they
Yeah.
will back off.
and I agree with you fully
Let
because
let me just give yeah, Honorable. Go ahead,
yes,
Honorable McDonald.
I agree with you. That is what Venezuela is doing. And like you rightfully said, it happens in every one of the territories. We are going to be having elections in 2025. 2025, we're due for elections. You're going to see the PPP out there doling monies out to the citizens of this country, fixing all the roads that they couldn't fix way back then. They're going to try to give more the scholarships that they couldn't give, they're going to try to give them. They're going to release fees from the university. So the things that Maduro is doing are the very things that the politicians in our individual territories they do to rile up the support of the citizens so that they can get them to vote for you. As a matter of fact, quite a lot of the Venezuelans who are here, they are not in agreement with what he is doing, and they're not bothering with him. we were expecting to see Venezuelans ganging up in groups and coming out yesterday, as a matter of yesterday, coming out there yesterday and shouting and singing their national anthem. And so you didn't see that. What we saw a couple of days leading up to the 3rd, we would have seen groups of Venezuelans coming at different points and saying, Essequibo belongs to Guyana. Essequibo doesn't belong to Venezuela. And we are here in support of Guyanese. So this whole thing about, Maduro and what he is doing, those who are gullible, he will get them. Those who want to remain in position with him in his unique circle, they will buy into that and they will start there singing that kind of song. But most of those who are right thinking, they don't bother with him. And as a matter of fact, they've been saying, Maduro and his vice president, they've been saying, when we get our Essequibo back to us, we are going to be rich once again, and you will receive this, you will receive that. And he's making lots and lots of promises to them, and some of them are thinking, well, we're going through a hard time. And so if Essequibo is returned to us, then we will have the oil, we will have the diamond, we will have the gold, we will have forest, and so things will be bright for us once again. But a whole lot of tricks coming from the politicians all over again.
But they still can't trade on the international market. I don't care how much gold and diamonds and all the rest of that they have, because the sanctions from the United States remain in force. And that is in the context of the UN as well. And furthermore, Madam McDonald, I've just got used to the reference of Madam for the honorable dealing with persons in politics. You also have the situation where I look at the outline of Guyana, and I'm asking myself, why would Guyanese, you are in the Essequibo area, you look at the mapping, you see the drawing of the map where if they are able to take Essequibo, you're talking about 2/3 of the land of Guyana that would be reintegrated into Venezuela.
Well, not
And you are
reintegrated, it
offering
never was.
okay, integrated in. Thank you very much. And you're offering them Venezuelan passports. Who wants it? You can't go anywhere. If you follow what I'm saying, I mean, there's just no feasible reason for something of that nature. You're not able to offer people what riches, what wealth. You can't sell the oil, you can't sell the diamonds, you can't sell the gold. The issue is not the resources, because Venezuela is also filled with oil. The issue is getting it into the world market with the sanctions that are currently on Venezuela. And that's not going to change even if they were able to take over Essequibo. As a matter of fact, I think it will get worse.
Well, that's what they don't, the ordinary citizens don't understand that. But like we're seeing on the screen, these were some of the activities that were happening here in Guyana leading up to December 3rd.
Yeah. And we saw the people themselves coming together. But it's the politicians that are trying to still keep people away, not involving the opposition. But tell me something, Honorable McDonald, what's happening on the ground in terms of the people's response to the U.S. wanting to be involved? At one point, we were told that the U.S. had, they had ships there and so on. Can you confirm any of that? And how do the average Guyanese? How do they feel knowing that the U.S. is involved?
Well, the thing is, at first, Guyanese and some are still they're still scared, and they were wondering, well, who would come to our assistance because we can't fight Venezuela? And then you had all of these videos that were being shared all over the place. Of course, because of technology, they have been doing all sorts of things, mixing this here and mixing that there, and they've been photoshopping, and they are placing Venezuelan soldiers in different parts of Guyana and lowering our flag and all kinds of things they've been doing. So Guyanese people were, the Guyanese were saying, well, okay, if the Americans come here, at least it's going to be a sort of safety for us, and we're going to be a little more comfortable if the Americans come here. But it's not true that they were American Navy ships or planes or anything here. What we saw are some senior officials coming here.
Yes.
They were having these kinds of discussions. They were having discussions with our military arm, but no vessels and so on that were here from the US.
Well, I can assure you, Madam McDonald, that the United States is not going to sit back idly and allow Venezuela to invade. That is just simply not going to happen.
That's true.
But you know what I want to say here. I want to say here, and I love Kemar to make a comment before Honorable McDonald leaves. I want to say that, you know, ma'am, I have been following Guyana, the politics in Guyana for a little bit, and I've had some people on my show. And, you know, I've heard of the horrific things that have happened in Guyana to Black Guyanese. And, you know, and some of it, you know, I've researched it and realized a lot of it is, you know, it's true. And I often would sit by and I said, but how could CARICOM sit down and allow these atrocities to be happening to Black Guyanese, you know? And why it is that even America, I mean, they have, you know, all this thing about human rights and all of that, and we don't see anything happening for Guyana. But all of a sudden now, what all of a sudden oil is involved, and everybody is all interested. I know, yes, you know, there's Venezuela and there's the army and so on, but it's kind of interest that America is placing in, you know, putting into Guyana. When you think about the fact that, you know, a lot of Black Guyanese have been suffering at the hands of, you know, of this government, and nothing. We haven't had anything. We haven't had any outcry really from CARICOM about that. Do you often think about that? Why is there no outcry about that? But now that it has to do with oil, everybody is up in arms about it.
Well, you know what? That is one of the disheartening facts and let me talk about what happened to our CARICOM sisters and brothers from Haiti who were here in Guyana. And I think I raised that the last time I was here. We had loads and loads of Haitians who were bundled up. They were locked up. They were passed through the courts. They were fined. Some of them had jail sentences, and most of them were deported from Guyana. Not a single word from CARICOM. And we have signed on to the Treaty of Free Movement. Not a single word from CARICOM, you know? But on the other hand, we have loads and loads of Venezuelans coming, and they're not being given the same treatment that our CARICOM brothers and sisters were given. We see our CARICOM heads, they go to all of these meetings. You have Methodist Education Conference, and you've got the presidents and the prime ministers meeting, and all of them meeting, and they're making all kinds of decisions. But you know what? Nobody, as I look at CARICOM as a family, and nobody is able to say, Barrett Jagdio, what you're doing there in Guyana to Afro-Guyanese, it is not right. Irfan Ali, what you're doing there to Afro-Guyanese, it is not right. They must be entitled to an equal share of the pie that is being offered. Why are you locking them out? Why are you treating the opposition the way you are treating them? Nobody is saying that. And this is simply saying to us that almost everything we do around that CARICOM table is just about a show. It's just about a show. And again, I don't want to upset my friend, because I can come to Guyana and I can have land concessions. I can have this, I can have that. So I will not speak out against what Irfan Ali is doing and what Barrett Jagdio is doing. Somebody else, on the other hand, another CARICOM leader, well, I don't want to step on anybody's shoe. And then they put it in some nice words to say, oh, we don't want to get involved in the internal affairs. How that becomes internal affairs when one set of people are being oppressed and another set of people, you are putting them on a pedestal. How is that you don't want to get involved in the internal affairs? And I can say to you, during the presidency of Barra Jagdeo, there are over 1,400 Black young men who have been murdered. And you know what? They were murdered by, we had a phantom squad.
Yes, I heard about that.
That when your son went on the street to walk, you had to be sitting there all night and you're wondering if your son will return home. They were killing them at whims and fancies. You know, we had the issue of a young Black University of Guyana student. He and 4 of his friends were returning home from a basketball game. You know what the police, the Phantom Squad did? They opened fire on them, killing one of the young men, injuring the others. And today, up to daylight today, nothing can happen to it. You know what we have? We have in this country, cocaine and marijuana is the biggest thing here. And when you look at what is happening, the small fishes are being caught and they're passing through the courts. They're spending 3 years and heavy fines. And the big fishes are allowed to go. We had just after August 2nd, when the PPP regime were installed, there was a big drug bust in Germany. I think it was Germany. Nobody here could tell you who the container was assigned to or who the container was going to. But the people way out in Germany, they could have said to us, this was the consignee and this was, it's so crazy. And up to now, even though that kind of information was released, that person is not yet arrested. We've had issues where police officers have spoken out that they were contracted. We had the murder of one of our activists, Ronald Waddell. Up to a day like today, nobody could say who killed Ronald Waddell, but several police officers came out and they spoke. Several members from the death squad came out and they said they were consigned to commit the murder. They were consigned to kill him because he was talking too much. When they met on the scene, they recognized that other persons were on the scene. And up to today, nobody could be held for that murder. So many other persons were killed. We had Courtney Crummy Wing, another activist who was protesting in front of the Attorney General's office because I think they went to Queen's College together. He knew him and he was protesting there as a one man. He was killed. He was shot and killed. Nobody. And they have all of these cameras up and nobody is held up to a day like today. So many other murders we've had. We had just recently a young man by the name of Peter Headley was murdered. We had Paper Shorts was murdered right on Main Street, where the president and the prime minister, they live not too far from there. And you know what we were told? The cameras were not working. So it means, therefore, that even the security of the president and the prime minister is compromised with them telling us that the camera not working. So they couldn't pick up who the persons or person was that shot and killed.
And these are African Afro-Guyanese that are being killed.
Most of them that I mentioned are Afro-Guyanese. The guy Paper Shorts is an East Indian Guyanese, but he was killed because he was connected to a drug lord, and it's a rivalry story with gangs going on. But people know who doing these things. Let me say to you, we had a murder many years ago. A young lady by the name of Monica Reese was killed and dumped out of a vehicle on Good Friday, the night of Good Friday. Many years ago, persons saw the vehicle. They know who the vehicle belonged to, but nobody could do. The police are not doing anything about it. As we speak, the Guyana police force is politicized. The Guyana Defense Force is heading in that direction too. So they take political advice, political instructions, rather than going on the instructions that are in the mandate of the Guyana Police Force. And so we have corruption upon corruption upon corruption. Contracts, when contracts are being awarded, Afro-Guyanese could easily receive a contract. If you receive a contract, you have to be linked to the PPP in some way, or you are given this contract as a front, but the big guns behind, they're the ones who really have the contract, who the contract has been really awarded to. If you go on YouTube and so on, you're going to see Afro-Guyanese villages. You can tell when you're in an Afro-Guyanese village, and you can tell when you're entering an Indo-Guyanese village because of the infrastructure that is there and the way things are being done there.
You know, I'm listening to her, Mr. Franklyn, and Kemar. I want Kemar to jump in on this very soon. You know, we're going a little longer than we expect. We have another 5 minutes, but you're going to have to keep coming back because we need to hear what Honorable McDonald is saying. We are CARICOM. We are sisters. We are brothers, and we have Afro-Guyanese. They have been messaging me. It's over 2 years. They've been telling me these things. And we're not seeing us coming together. We are hearing, but we're not hearing. We don't care. But when it comes on to Guyana oil, everybody's up in arms now because the oil is more important than the lives of the people. But Mr. Franklyn, make a short comment, and then I'm going to go to Kemar.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You see, I hope the people in Barbados listens to the Honorable Coretta McDonald, what she is saying, because Barbados is just a step behind. She said the police force is politicized, the defense force is politicized. We are already there. Remember the people who lost the case against the government, and when the CCJ, the Barbados government said, no, don't worry, we can pay them, even though they lost. And then one of them became commissioner, that kind of stuff. And the senior ranks in the police force are now mostly BLP. The chief of staff of the Barbados Defense Force is a retired man. He was older than the retiring chief of staff. And they changed the age of retirement for the chief of staff so that he can come back from retirement. So you see what is happening? It's happened in Guyana. And if you don't learn from Guyana's example, we will go down the same road. The same playbook that is, I think, both Barack Jagdeo, because Irfan Ali didn't really think he's just the figurehead. Because Ali couldn't, because Barack Jagdeo couldn't be president again. So they used poor Irfan Ali, but he ain't really there.
Well, let me say to you before you go there, you know they attempted to change the law to allow Barack Jagdeo to have a third term. They attempted to do that.
Yeah, I well remember.
The court ruled against it. And so this is the mindset of these people. We are there to control, and we will oppress all those who don't vote for us. And the teachers are suffering, I can tell you that, because I'm a teacher by profession. The teachers are suffering. 3 years since 2020, we would have submitted our salaries proposal to this government. Up to a day like today, they have not been serious to sit with us at the table to let's negotiate. The public servants in Guyana are suffering, and you know why? Because most of them are Afro-Guyanese, and it is perceived that Afro-Guyanese don't support the PPP, they vote for coalition. And so to punish them, you're treating them that way so that they'll come crawling behind you. We've had cash grants upon cash grants upon cash grants being given to persons around this country. And what do you see? A certain grouping of people who they receive all the time, every time, over and over again. The fishermen have received cash grants, but you have the teachers and you can't give the teachers a cash grant. You can't give to the nurses. You can't give to other public servants, but you give to fishermen and you give to the sugarcane workers, because the sugarcane workers who fall under the umbrella of the community workers, they are and it's so blatant that in 2016, and I think I mentioned this before, before 2016, 21 years before that, we would have had the trade union movement having two umbrella bodies, and on May Day, which is Labor Day, the Workers' Day, we're having separate rallies for the workers. In 2016, after 21 years, we started marching together, assembling at the same point, marching together and ending at one point, and we have several speakers that we agreed to who will speak at that forum. You know, after 2020, when the PPP were installed, we have returned to the same old medicine where we're having separate May Day rallies. On Workers' Day, the trade union leaders cannot sit together and decide that we are going to march on this day as workers, and as workers leaders, we are going to march together, sit at one place, listen to our leaders speak to us, and if we invite the politicians, ask them the hard questions. No, we cannot do that. And so you have the fit up arm of which is aligned to the PPP. They march separately from all the other workers. So the politics is deeply rooted in some of these leaders, some of these so-called trade unionists that we have who pretend to be leaders, and it's deeply rooted in the PPP, who feel that all they must do is have control, full control. I think they're related to Maduro. Full control.
Marcia,
Wow. Somebody here is saying that the indigenous people in Guyana are also neglected, and that's what I've been told that as well. And I just really wanted to also bring that point to everyone, so that we are not thinking that all of a sudden all eyes are on Guyana, but there have been a lot of human rights issues inside of Guyana that the United Nations and the others needed to years ago, and everybody has turned a blind eye, because oil is better, it's valued way above Black people's lives in Guyana. And so I really my eye watching the US, because I understand, yes, Guyana will feel safe that they're there, but we must ask ourselves the question, why haven't they stepped in to deal with the human rights issue inside of Guyana all these years, when Guyanese have been writing them and have been complaining to them and have been crying out to them, and CARICOM have never lifted one finger, not one. All right, so we just want to. I know we've gone over time. I'm not seeing Kemar. I wanted Kemar to make a final comment before we go into his segment, but I'm not seeing him. So we'll say, Honorable McDonald, give us your final words. I think, were you saying something, Caswell, or
no,
did I miss something?
no, you can go
Caswell,
ahead.
were you saying something?
I think, no, go ahead, because I think I made the point that we are going on the same road. We are not lockstep, but just half step behind Guyana. We have to be careful. If you hear what the Honorable Coretta McDonald is saying, you can scratch off Guyana and put Barbados, and you would be right there, except for the murders, but everything else. So I hope Bethans are watching you, Mom, and I'm grateful that you came and spoke, because they can see now that this is a design. This is something that just happening, that this Barbados Labour Party government that we have, they are in cahoots with probably Barack Jagdeo, and I say mostly Barack Jagdeo, because poor Irfan Ali.
You know the story.
Yeah.
It's amazing that.
But over to you for the final words on this topic. Go ahead, Honorable McDonald.
Thank you much. amazing that our government sign on to all of these ILO conventions, but they play a different song when they're in their countries or when they're in their territories. And again, it's disheartening that as a CARICOM or a Caribbean family, we don't want to offend anyone. So we play step back game, we do the step back dance, and we allow all of these atrocities to be meted out to our people. Whether they are black, whether they're Indians, whether they're Amerindians, whoever they are, we just allow all this injustice to be done against these people. And sometimes I find it very disgusting when our CARICOM leaders meet in different territories and persons or citizens in those territories come out to protest. They don't stop to find out, well, why are these people protesting? They turn their faces to the other side and they just see you as being very disgusting. But the thing is, people will not make noise if they're not affected. If you're not comfortable, then you have to speak out. And I will continue to speak fearlessly. And whoever is wrong, I will call you out. Even if you're the king, I will call you out, because I stand as somebody who is on the side of justice. Whether my hair is straight and yours is kinky, or yours is straight and mine is kinky, as long as injustice is being meted out to you, I will stand up for you. And I don't care whether I have to call out Prime Minister Mia Mottley or Prime Minister Ralph Gonzalez or Prime Minister Rowley or whoever it is. Well, don't talk about Jagbio and Erfanali and them. I call them out all the time, because you know what? There is nothing that they have on me. I am not one of the leaders who is compromised. I stick to my guns and I tell them. As a matter of fact, in 2018, when the coalition government was in power, my party, I led one of the largest strikes in Guyana with our teachers. And I'm saying, if I can do that to my party, then I can do that to any other party who come into conflict with the labor laws. You can't pretend to be leaders and you don't like this set of people and you don't like that set of people and you like one set of people because
Correct.
you think that those persons will vote for you at elections. You got, as government, this is my heart's desire to see whoever government we have, that they look after the people. That's your obligation. That's the oath you took, to look after the people of the country. You know what we have in our country now? Let me say this finally. In our country, the installed government, they are on the verge of changing our national motto, which says, one people, one nation, one destiny, to one Guyana. That's the big thing now. Everything is one Guyana, one Guyana. And you're talking about one Guyana, and the Amerindians are suffering because they don't see eye to eye with they don't see with your ideologies. They are being sidelined. Afro-Guyanese are being sidelined. Indo-Guyanese, as long as they recognize that you stand up to them, you're being sidelined. We have a famous guy by the name of Brian Max. He was there with the PPP during the 2020 elections, and he was part of the Guardians of Democracy. Now he has recognized that what the PPP is doing, it's wrong. They're mistreating people in this country. And you know what he has decided to do? He has decided that he's going to go on Facebook and he's doing lots of lives every day. Every day he's doing a live, calling them out. You know what they did? They first damaged his car about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then last week, they had 3 men ambushed him and they put on a fine licking on him. That's what the PPP do. Every time you call them out, they step to do all kinds of things to you to instill fear into you. But I fear no man but God. That's the only person I fear. And so I will speak.
Well, I tell you,
until
well said.
I can't speak anymore.
Well said.
Barbados is going that route as well. I remember coming through the airport, and every time I pass Mr. Franklyn, I was with somebody else. You know what? All of a sudden, they were holding me back. I was going all the way to Europe, and we looked at each other and we started to laugh. We recognized what was happening. I am on some list. just smile and waited. I have all the time in the world. I can still catch my flight. They hold me back every time. I like I'm a terrorist. But let me, Mr. Stuart is here, Kemar, and I just wanted to hear his thoughts on the Guyana. He's not on to talk about that. And I know you came on a little late, Honorable McDonald. I want to thank you for being on. But I just want you to hear, Kemar, what can you say to to Honorable McDonald about this particular issue before she goes? Kemar, Mr. Stuart, is he hearing? Kemar, you're there?
No, you just dropped out.
Seem to be
Just
having
dropped
some
out. I think he's,
challenges.
yes.
You dropped out. Okay. He's having some
Well, I
challenges,
well
but I
I
wanted to
simply
hear his thoughts on this.
I simply must say that I absolutely admire your position and your tenacity and your attitude, and you have your brother here. If you need help, call. I think it what if what is
Yeah.
that movie again, Marcia? In Ghostbusters, is it? I think it's that one.
Ghostbusters.
Uh,
That is
yes,
the
but you have your brother here, Madam
here
McDonald. You
here
have
and
your
in
brother here.
Guyana. Here and in Guyana is the LGBT busters.
Okay, I absolutely
Well,
admire you. Thank you so much. Love it. Absolutely love
yes,
it.
I tell you,
yes.
And
Okay, he's back. He's
I
back.
tell you,
Kemar.
Barbados, I think one step.
Yeah, Kemar, are you there? Kemar?
Yeah, I
Okay,
am
not
here.
hearing him. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I wanted you to just to say a few words. I know you're not on to
Hello?
talk about the Guyana issue. Are you hearing me, Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Okay, wonderful. I
Yes, I
said I
can
know
hear
you're
you
not
very
here to
well.
talk about Guyana. Okay, but go ahead and can you say a few words to Honorable McDonald before she goes about this Guyana issue?
Well, I wish Guyana the best um in the journey to keep its land in their possession. However, this is a war that is much bigger than just Guyana and Venezuela. This is setting the stage for a much bigger uh theater, in the sense that when China is ready to take over Taiwan, blockages in the way, Russia tried to take over Ukraine. So we're going to see a pattern of countries trying to take over countries. So I would not be surprised to see that Venezuela gets the backing of Russia and China and many other countries in the world who supported Russia against Ukraine. Um, we might see that playing out in the sense of Venezuela and Guyana. Um, the challenge I have here with the Guyana Venezuela dispute is the middlemen. The middlemen are not negotiating this for peace, or the middlemen are not negotiating this in the best interest of the Guyanese people. This is a fight
Mm,
over oil, resources, gold, and to control strategic points in South America. Because when Trump tried to insert himself into Venezuela by trying to insert the mock leader called Juan Guaido, right? When when he did that, his aim was to put somebody in office who would be friendly to America so that they could have joint control over Guyana and Venezuela, right? So we have to be careful that the international string pullers are not putting Guyana and Venezuela to go to war
Go to
for
war.
their
So
own
that
interests and not for the Venezuela or for the Guyanese people, right? So I don't support a dueling battle between two countries, especially two resource countries who could become beacons in the world. Venezuela is already a beacon in terms of providing uh, oil deals and other resources. A lot of countries borrow money from Venezuela, and Guyana is on its way to that status,
Yeah.
right? So you don't need a war between the two of them. You need partnerships, right? But the problem here is that you have companies like ExxonMobil and you have corrupt politicians in Guyana who would sell out the interests of the country, right? And cause the fighting to be over the resources, right? So what the Guyanese people need to do, stand up for their rights, fight, claim their lands, yes. However, do not be led into a war on behalf of people who, when you then win the war, they're going to come in and try to dictate to your country what is supposed to happen with your oil, what is supposed to happen with your gold, and what is supposed to happen with your resources. Because as soon as if the United States help Guyana, as soon as you do not cooperate with what they want, you see regime change. And South America has been the country who had the most coups in the world outside of Africa, but US sponsored coups in the world. So Guyana needs not to be fooled by these persons who are standing up. But you're glad for the support, but understand the reasons why these persons are standing up for you, and say to yourselves, if we didn't have this oil or we didn't have this, would these countries care about us? Would they care about representing the interests of Guyana? Would they care about calling Guyana in to sit with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Because I remember full well that the Guyanese election results, David Granger won the election. I think I remember that. And it was true, me and Mottley using the office of CARICOM, putting force on the Granger government and caused them to be toppled out to then insert Ali. But Ali didn't win any election in Guyana. He didn't. And the facts are there,
LGBT.
right? So Mayor Mottley used her position as the chairman of CARICOM to intervene into the internal and domestic affairs of Guyana, to insert the Ali government into power because they were not democratically elected, right? And from
LGBT.
all back then, you could see the influence of these countries who were sending in their companies like ExxonMobil position to benefit from Guyana's oil riches, because Barbados, and as you know, the Barbados the party always had a good relationship with the PPP government, because a lot of Guyanese migrated into Barbados under the NUFF period, right? So it's just rekindling those relationships. So now you have Jagdeo, who was the president all that time back in power now. She's not rekindled the Guyanese connection, but my heart is saying to me that the reason me and Motley interfered, and even Oinafa went down to Guyana as well, he was one of the observers in the Guyanese election. Him
Yes.
and Cynthia Barrow Gels, if you all remember that, right? And Barbados at the time, if my memory uh serves me correct, Barbados at the time was trying to position itself as the, what you call, the services center for Guyana. Right? Guyana was discussing having its own law school in Guyana. Right? So there were a lot of things happening at the time, a lot of discussions happening at the time, but because of the election results, they then had to intervene to get a government that was more favorable to what they want. And I'm guessing the MP here, she could, I mean, I don't want to put her on the spot,
That's true.
but she could attest to some of what I'm saying.
Yep.
Right? So it is
So,
Not so
so hold a
shocking, no.
minute, Kemar, you're bringing a different
Right.
perspective here. This is interesting. It's not so shocking now. Not so shocking now.
Marcy, I brought a new perspective to LGBT. That is
Research. I'm not sure if you could put it on the screen. If you could put it on the screen here, that we can see about the controversy surrounding the interference from Barbados in the
Yes.
Guyanese election. And at that time,
Yeah,
you
let
had
me
the
look for it.
Afro-Guyanese hated the Barbados Prime Minister for what she did.
Yep.
Right? The Prime Minister went to Guyana and she got in a plane crash in Guyana and then lied about it. And said that it was not her. They reported it. And Caswell's laughing, so he knows what I mean. Right? They reported that she was in a
Yes.
plane crash in Guyana, and they denied it. But the people down there saw and know exactly what happened, and they spoke about it. Right? So
As
there's a lot going on as it relates to Guyana, and it is my opinion that the Barbados Prime Minister, in association with the United States and other world leaders, is putting Mottley, who seems to be the go-to person for the international community, to keep a handle on what happens in Guyana, because they are going to use her to protect their interests in Guyana, right? Because from time you could use your position as a leader at CARICOM to step over your boundaries to intervene in a country's eternal election. That says a lot. CARICOM has no power to do such things. Right? So you
Wow.
could see, you could
That
clearly
is,
see. Sorry, go ahead.
and she said here she's saying the truth hurts. And I remember that, and I remember Guyanese contacted me, even Guyanese in Barbados contacted me, and they were very, very upset. I remember seeing one of them at a church, and they were very upset but afraid to talk about it. And they said, "Can you believe? We can't believe that Mia Mottley would do this without understanding what is happening in Guyana." But she sided with this the PPP government and put her mouth involved in it. And what Kemar is saying is not far off, because what and look at what is happening now. Look at what is happening now. Really, is this something that they planned to make sure that this is the government that was in? Remember also that this I read something somewhere, you can tell me, Honorable McDonald, if I'm right or wrong, where it was alleged, and I think you said it on the show as well, it was alleged that the US government was trying to get the former government, the other party who was in government, to they wanted to set up some kind of some kind of I can't remember, military fort or something inside of Guyana to kind of watch to watch what's happening in Venezuela. And
Right, that is correct.
then
That is correct. There were serious
then
allegations.
go ahead.
There were
Go
serious
ahead.
allegations at the time, Marcia. Right, there were serious allegations at the time where they were saying that the U.S. officials on the ground wanted to set up something like camps in using Guyana, and to set up basically a propaganda mission to remove Maduro. So it's been alleged that the United States pressured Mr. Granger to allow them to use Guyana as a launch pad into Venezuela. So when he didn't cooperate, then they put pressure to put a government that would then allow things like that to happen. Because remember, Venezuela is heavily supported by Russia. So when they went to invade Venezuela, the US, Putin sent some of his fighter jets to park on the Venezuelan runway. And all of a sudden, they didn't have any more issues with Venezuela. So well, Maduro might be doing this, right? we still need to understand that Barbados is seeking to, or Myanmar is trying to become the United Nations Secretary General. So
Oh,
she's not going to cross Venezuela because she wants the Caribbean oil. Barbados now appointed Aquinas Clark to be ambassador and the potentiary to Venezuela. Just the other day, right? And Barbados through David Commission, who has always been a pro-Venezuelan. They know what they're in bed with Venezuela with, Barbados, right? And
that is
Russia
why.
has a veto power at the United Nations. So therefore, Mottley will not do or say anything to cross those people who has the veto powers to block her from becoming UN Secretary General.
So
So if
again,
that means, sorry,
so
go ahead.
saying all of this is about personal gains. It's not about the people. It's not about the well-being of the CARICOM states. It's all about me as a person and what I can achieve and where I can go. It's not about the will of the Caribbean people. And like you rightfully said, during our elections, they came here and Mr. Granger said to them, look, I don't want to be, well, it's alleged that he said he didn't want to be appointed under all the kinds of circumstances. And they agreed to have a recount. They agreed to have a recount. And there were several steps in that entire process. But you know what? When they reached step 3, they abandoned the entire process and the PPP government were installed. And that is why Guyanese are so angry and they're so upset. And I can say this again. Prime Minister Mia Mottley came and she got involved in our internal politics. But when we got issues with Venezuela now, she taking a standoff attitude, and Venezuela has always been a sister to Barbados. So who is Guyana? Why did you come here? Why are you intervening in our issues if we are not a sister to you? So the whole thing again is about those who can be in the elite group and how high you can climb in that group. 2, the sufferings of the masses.
Yes. Venezuela recently, you know that Venezuela actually honored Mottley with one of the highest orders as of recent. And you can search that, you can
No,
find that.
you sure? I
Yes,
thought it
they
was
did.
Guyana that honored her.
No,
No,
that was 2016.
Venezuela.
Honored in 2016 in Guyana. But she was recently honored in Venezuela.
She was honored with one of the
What you
highest
telling
orders
me?
of
What
Venezuela.
are you telling me?
You can
No,
you
the,
can
the
find
plot
it, you can put
thickens
it on the
on the
screen.
plot. This lady, oh no, this woman is something else. I'm telling you, Guyana, be careful with this woman. Be careful because she don't forget about that elections. Don't
We will
forget
not forget
what the
her. We
role
will
of Mia Mottley in your elections. Don't forget. And look at what is happening now. Was this well orchestrated for this day? Did they put the people in? Is this really about US and Venezuela? And what is this woman wants? Why she is like in Jamaica, we said that she playing booty. She better be careful. Mia Mottley
you
better
know,
be careful.
Look,
you know,
I'm going to ask a simple question, and
go ahead.
that will cement everything I'm saying. Who is Mrs. Barak Jagdeo?
We don't have one. We don't have a Mistress Marajadu.
Who is
But
she?
when Trinidad were having their elections and the Caribbean team wanted to go in there, he said, no, none of y'all not coming here because this in Guyana, this is Trinidad. None of y'all come in here. He blocked all those observers who wanted to go there to come and put on badges and all kind of things. And that's why I said, me and Marty came here to Guyana. Ralph Gonzalez came here to Guyana. You had Owen Arthur was here. All of them were here doing all sorts of things. Rowley was here, but you didn't see Rowley playing the kind of role that Mia Mortley and all of them played here. And so this whole thing is about who can do for me and who can't do for me. And if you can't do for me, then I will do whatever I have to do to put you where you have to be so that I can have things being done for me. At the end of the day, the people, the the masses of the people are the ones who are left to suffer. With all of those public servants who have been not retrenched, they've been dismissed from their jobs. Hundreds of Guyanese being dismissed, the majority of them Afro-Guyanese. Not a word from Prime Minister Mia Mottley, not a word from Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, not a word from anybody, and those people are now left out there to suffer. They got to go and find some snack job somewhere, as we would call it, because they can't be employed with the government in any government jobs. They got to go and find other things to do. As a matter of, let me say to you, there are some persons who are employed by the PPP, but under the coalition government, they were allowed to go overseas to further their studies and so on. And when the PPP government returned to office after they were installed, even those persons that they employed then, they were fired by them. And so this is not an easy grouping of people that we're dealing with. These people are heartless, and they don't care who they have to mash and trample upon to get where they have to be once they get there. So here you have it.
Wow. And it seemed to me that, this woman is moving, and she is moving, and whoever she's trampling, that's my take on it. And Kemar, what an excellent analysis, Kemar, that you have put here. Mr. Franklyn, when you think about it, is that she is like walking like Hulk and just crushing and crushing, and whoever she crushes. And I remember my Guyanese people, because I'm close to my Guyanese people, they would call me. I had Rickford Burke on this show, and he was complaining, and nobody was listening to him about what Mia Mottley was doing to the Afro-Guyanese in Guyana, in interfering with the politics, and they put who they wanted there because of the oil. That's what they did. Mr. Franklyn, you were saying something?
No, I just keep sticking to my thing because this is more carnal than you would expect. Oil, yes, Maduro want to get to, but the relationship at the top of Guyana and Barbados is LGBT. You see, the thing is, fortunately for me, I listen to the Guyanese gossip too, see, because I have some connections. And trust me, that's why I asked who was Mrs. Barak Jagdeo.
But it's quite crazy. And we talk about allowing persons their space, and you don't want to discriminate because of people's personal preferences. But these same preferences got a lot. It has lots and lots of negative impact on the lives of people in our country. As a matter, let me say to you, I don't know why I keep using this word as a matter of fact so often, but let me say to you, in our schools, we're finding out in our schools that we have so many students who are liking other students of the same kind, the same sex. Lots of it happening in our school system. And so this cannot be something that is just popping up overnight. It is coming from somewhere. And freedom of speech and freedom of association and freedom to do what you want. And so these are some of the results that we're having. And like you were saying, the LGBT, it is so pronounced almost every.
And it's at the top, and it's if it's in the leadership of these countries, if our leaders are leaning towards those kinds of things, then obviously it's something that they're going to support, and it's going to trickle down. But I think I heard Kemar's voice. Go ahead, Kemar.
Right.
Kemar?
I don't want to get myself caught. Right. I was saying I don't want to get myself caught up here, but when it was time for Barbados to sign the Petrocaribbean deal with Venezuela recently, they sent Carrie Simmons on vacation, and Jerome Walker signed the deal. Right? He was returned as the acting foreign minister to sign that deal. What? That is what we have. But go ahead. You go ahead.
Wow, 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 wow. Anybody you're reading through this, you understand what we're talking about here. This is some serious stuff that is happening here. And Kemar, you just came in and turn this thing in this way. And it's a lot to think. I tell you, this that somebody wow. No, this is something else. And this is her receiving a very prestigious honor there in Venezuela in July 2023. And remember that Granger gave her one of the highest honors in Barbados, in Guyana. And by the time of the election and the oil came and she saw the chiching and everything turned, and she turned the Guyanese are believing that she turned on you guys. Wow. I know
Yep.
we wanted you to go, but this is rather interesting. Wouldn't you say, Honorable McDonald? You didn't say it, but
Very,
somebody
very
else said it.
very, very interesting. And it's one of the reasons why I have just been poking and poking, and I've not been saying exactly what it is, but it's actually coming out. And I'm hoping that our Bajan brothers and sisters, they are reading through the lines, and that our Guyanese all over the world who are watching, that they are understanding fully what is happening in between these two countries and what is happening in Guyana. I hope that they're watching and they're getting the picture very, very clear that this is not about the ordinary Guyanese people or the ordinary Bajans, but it's about the leaders who we have there who are making these kinds of decisions and creating the kinds of confusion for us.
Yeah, it's quite this is quite interesting what is happening now. We have our ambassador to CARICOM is David Commission, and I don't know if you know, David Commission is related to Mia Mottley, and he's a big Venezuelan advocate. He stands strong for Venezuela, so it's quite interesting now, Kemar, to know what will be his stance at this point. Has he been saying anything, Kimar? Do you know?
Well, he will not say anything because the prime minister has dibs on this one, so he has to sit down, sit in the back. Right? This is a little above
Mm-hmm.
his pay grade.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Interesting. Very interesting what is happening here. We need to really need to pray for Guyana and
Mm-hmm.
pray about the situation
Yeah.
and pray for our prime minister, because you can't be, this kind of thing is really it's frightening actually. If this is what Kimar is what he's alluding to and alleging that this started from Guyana's
Elections back.
elections from way back then. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff, because I know that that whoever is in power is who the US wants to be in power. So Guyana is going to allow themselves to be used by them like this again another. Oh, it's
Yes,
sad.
yes, they
It is
will allow
sad. Go
themselves to be
ahead, go
used.
ahead.
Yes, they will allow themselves to be used because they view power and the kickbacks that comes with power as
Mm-hmm.
more important than the integrity of
Mm-hmm.
their country
Mm-hmm.
or their own personal integrity. It's all about money. Look at the people who can go and sit down with Barack Jagdeo and get fancy contracts. You remember when the people did the little thing and had him, and he said, "You know, the people talking about they had him videotaped and recorded. It is all about money for yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
you see, we don't have a lot of politicians with a lot of integrity anymore. You see, I tell people in Barbados, and they laugh at me, and I tell them, but in next 20 or so years, they will recognize that Burnham was a hero in Guyana, right? Burnham had Guyana on the trajectory where, and you will see it, where when you want to go to university in Guyana, you had to learn, you had to get involved before you go to university. You have to
Mm-hmm.
do national service,
No surface, yes.
and that national service you learn two trades. A lot of those people came to Barbados, and you had two fellows from Guyana. One is a carpenter and a plumber, and one is a mason and something else, an electrician, and the two of them
One.
build houses. I see, Burnham did that, but people only saw that you couldn't get English apples, that ain't good for you, and that kind of nonsense, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and not recognizing, but Burnham was trying to teach them how to rely on themselves. And at one stage,
Very
part
well.
of WHO said that the Guyanese people were the healthiest people in the Caribbean because they were eating their own stuff, not
Your
all
own
these chemicals, preservatives, and stuff. But people still want to demonize Burnham, but Burnham was on the right path. And I don't know if they kill him and they take out his tonsils, but I suspect that's what happened.
But let
Because
me
he
tell
died.
let me tell you
Go
what
ahead.
happened. Let me tell you what happened recently while we were gearing up to December 3rd. All the national songs that the PPP did not want to have being played on the radios, and they have not had the children singing those national songs in schools. Well, let me tell you, all of those national songs resurrected, and we were having national songs being played every day. We were having them being sung in school. On the 1st of December, we had all children across Guyana. They were singing national songs. They were reciting our pledge. They were reciting the national motto. And so the very fabric that you tried to destroy was the very fabric you had to now take to mend up together to put on and make clothing to cover yourself. And so when you try to dismiss and destroy Burnham, here is it. Burnham was alive and well again in all of Guyana over the last week.
But Burnham came from Barbados. You know that. His parents. You know that. Burnham's family was from Belplain and St. Andrew. He's first generation Guyanese. I remember when they were having the problems on there. The deputy prime minister of Barbados said, "Oh Lord, if anything happens and Burnham come to Barbados, we can't even tell you no come because he right the citizenship by descent." So you see, we had good connections.
Yeah.
Barra, Burnham,
Eric Williams.
Bird, Eric Williams, Trevor Montserrat, Bramble, Bradshaw, and St. Kitts. Those people were not only leaders of their country, they saw the region as one place, and they started with Coretta and then CARICOM. Now we are looking now at who is LGBT showing support. This was happening here, This was happening in Guyana. And nobody but me won't say it, but I can say it, and but you know what? We will recognize the error of our ways when it's too late.
Caswell,
Everything's left you to
sorry.
see.
Yeah.
Caswell, I've said for a long time that the entire economic global push across the world, that at the helm of it is the LGBTQ2 plus agenda. Everything else falls under that. And that is being made clear with every single agreement that is being brought forward and signed by every global government. And I've been saying this for the last several months in different forums that at the end of the day, whenever you come into an agreement with anything on the global community, enshrined within that are the matters of sexual, gender, identity, and the persons, and I've said it before, and I will say it again, the leader globally on this is Joe Biden and the United States government. And that is clear. It was a consensus opinion in the United Nations, and the European Union has now taken it and is running with it now on that Samoa agreement that we have just signed on to. And that is the bottom line with this entire process. People don't think we are serious about it when we speak
Yeah.
to it. Go ahead, Kemar.
Yeah. Well, you say something about Joe Biden, right? So I wanted to read a particular article here from 2017 when the
Mhm,
Granger government was in, when they
mhm,
initially struck the oil deal with ExxonMobil.
mhm,
Um, it says here that ExxonMobil and its partners will pay Guyana a 2% royalty on all oil extracted from offshore oil wells in Guyana, in addition to sharing 50% of net profits. And this is the profits declared after the initial investments would have been repaid from the earnings, right? And it says that the Guyanese government, through the Ministry of Natural Resources, confirmed that a production license was issued to ExxonMobil, one of the requirements before the developers, which was one of the requirements before the developers made a decision on the oil project in 2017. The interesting thing about this article here is that it says that the production license, according to a ministry statement, will move ahead in 2020. Right? Ms. McDonald could tell us the year that the Guyanese election was held.
2020.
Right? So okay, great, we're good. So Exxon started to drill and produce the oil from 2020, and the Guyanese election was held in 2020. Now, the Ministry of Natural Resources in Guyana put out the notice that all of the production of oil was to happen from 2020. So you see why they would have done what they did to get who they wanted to oversee the issuing of the oil spoils, right? Now, the Jagdeo and Ali was, by the way, listen to Glenn Lal, by the way. I'm a big fan of Glenn Lal. And
Okay.
from listening to what he was saying, and from doing my own research, they were arguing that they wanted to renegotiate the contracts for the oil to move the percentage from 2% of the royalty up onto 10% of the royalty. But if you read the Financial Times and the Reuters and all the international medias, they were saying that the Guyanese ordeal was the best ordeal ever in the history of ordeals, right? And the PPP came to power promising the Guyanese people that they were going to renegotiate those contracts. Recently, the information reaching me is
They're
that
not doing.
when it came time to renegotiate the contracts, they changed their mouths on it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they sold misinformation to the Guyanese people about what they can and cannot have as it relates to benefiting from their own oil, right? Because the ExxonMobil, from the look of it, is paying out bonuses to people, right? It's paying out bonuses to people, and all types of people mixed up seemingly with the government, and the corruption that started happening. We know Guyana was one of the most, and this is not my information, so don't go and say that I anti PPP or I speaking facts here. When it comes to corruption, Guyana was one of the worst countries in the Caribbean as it
Mm-hmm.
related to
That's correct.
corruption
That's
in public
correct.
office.
That's
Mm-hmm.
correct. That's statistically
And that was
accurate.
under the good, and that was under Jack Deo when he was president. So that is
Mm-hmm.
not my feeling towards it. That is a fact,
That is
right?
fact.
So now that you have a government in Barbados who have some very similar and corrupt tendencies, right? What they say, two peas in the pod,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see based off the information that was coming out from Exxon and the Ranger government at the time, that the oil production from Exxon was to happen in 2020. The Guyanese election happened in 2020. Granger won the government, and it was Barbados who intervened to remove that government, to put another government in place to have the responsibility for overseeing this oil. And you can just go and read the Guyanese news right now and see exactly what's happening as it relates to the government doing the right thing.
And coming out of
Wow,
that
I know.
elections in
Yeah, go ahead.
2020, coming out of our elections in 2020, when we had the recount, that recount showed how many persons who were dead voted. It showed how many persons who were out of Guyana voted. And the immigration records were there to prove that these people were nowhere in Guyana during the time of elections. You had the registration of births and deaths office. It had all the documentation there to show you all of these persons who were names were ticked there and would have voted, that they are dead. And you had death certificates to prove that. But me and Mottley and the others, they encouraged the lawlessness to happen. At that recount, I was one of the agents for the coalition. I sat in one of those booths for 30 days. And coming to my booth, there were several boxes with ballots where you had no statutory documents. You hadn't persons with you hadn't their ID cards. You hadn't the ballots that was there. They had no stubs. You hadn't numbers that were coinciding to reconcile. All of these things came out in that recount, but yet the PPP were installed. And that's why I said there was 5 steps to that entire process. 3 steps were upheld, and the other 2, those were thrown out through the door. And so it's corruption upon corruption and the return of more corruption. And that's what some people like.
You're
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, this was not,
Yeah.
but when we started out, we were ready to end this an hour ago, Honorable McDonald, we were ready, Honorable Coretta, we were ready to end this, but Mr. Stuart has come in and put another wind in this, and I'm so glad that you had a chance to listen. We would stay the whole night, but we have some other things to deal with. But you have to come back because this is not done yet. Because there is this marriage that is happening, that has happened between Barbados and Guyana, and we're about to see them have a child. We're about to see this child that whatever happened in that election, we're about to see it.
Gay marriage, no child. Gay marriage, no child. Doesn't happen.
But you know what?
Lord have mercy.
I can say that we are sisters and we are brothers here. Not the sister we heard that Venezuela is a sister of Barbados. We are sisters and brothers here. And we've got to keep this going, because our people must know what is happening here. The relationship that we're having with our leaders, what they're encouraging, and those who cannot call out others when they're doing the wrong things. We have to let people know. And until persons are aware of what is happening, they're not going to be able to make very, very sound decisions, because persons will say, oh, I see the PPP doing a lot of things, lots of development in Guyana, but who's benefiting from it? Just a chosen few. Could you imagine that a couple of months ago, our Minister of Labor announced here that they were going to import truck drivers into Guyana? Could you imagine that? They were going to import persons to drive trucks in Guyana. And I had to respond to that, because I'm saying, what happened to our people here? Our people don't know to drive trucks. And if they don't know, what are we doing with those monies that are being passed to Parliament? Huh? You're crazy?
Miss McDonald, I think you here. I mean, you need to be more vocal as to telling the Barbadians exactly what happened in Guyana as it relates to the political affairs in the country. APNU, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the APNU AFC coalition was the governing party at the time. And they had a vote in parliament. I think it was a no confidence vote. And the government at the time was voted against by one of its own people. And
Yeah.
his name was Sharon Das Prasad.
Sharon
And
Das
he
Prasad.
was an Indo-Guyanese, right? And Sharon Das Prasad sold out the government and voted against the government. And then he fled the country to Canada.
And
Right?
he was later
So
made, High Commissioner to India by the PPP government.
good. So go ahead.
Yes, he voted
So
against his
so
own
Marcy, you
government.
saying how corrupt it is.
Yes, as a matter of fact, he stood up during the budget presentation and abused out the PPP who were in opposition then. He abused them when they were in government, what they did. And a couple mornings later on, he voted with the PPP against his own government. And he was taken to Canada. He fled to Canada and later returned after 2020 elections. He returned to Guyana and was made a high commissioner from Guyana to India. So he moved to India. But you know what? He did not last long there, because when you're corrupt and when you're lawless, wherever you go, you can only hold that in for a little bit. So he went there and he went and abused the women over there. And you know what? They hid that. So after a whole year, we didn't know anything. After a whole year, somebody leaked it out. And when we put pressure on them, he was recalled. A set of lawless people.
Yes, I remember that story. Wow. Kemar, were you making a point about that?
Before Kemar come on,
I was just saying that
we have the same issue with our commissioner of police.
Right, sorry,
and
you go ahead.
Do all the time. They have commissioner of police who they politicize, and so when they retire, they rehire them. So they give them extension. While the younger ones who are there with the aim of coming up to becoming commissioner, you can't come because the retired has been rehired.
Look, you're talking about Barbados or Guyana?
I'm here trying to figure it out.
The same thing.
I think she has the wrong flag hanging behind her. I think she has it wrong.
I tell you, they're using the same playbook. They're using the same playbook. You remember when both Williams and Doughton over 67 end up being on contract, get extensions contrary to the law, because the law don't allow them to go past 67 at the bank. You know.
Outside of that, we have lots of public servants, public service appointments that are no longer permanent staff, but they are contracted persons. You bring persons from all over and you give them huge contracts, and so they work there. So you stymie the people who you think are not in support of you, and you bring your people there, you put them on contract.
The comptroller of customs in Barbados is on contract. The chief education officer is on contract. The one that put the principals on contract. The same playbook. Better open your eyes and see the corruption. I knew this sophisticated thing was too good for Mottley. She copying it. She copying it from Guyana. And you have no, if you look into the public service, I could put my hand in my bag and pull up the Public Service Act. All jobs in the public service must be advertised, and they're going to go through the commission. And she hiring people left, right, and center, chief of protocol, one that just order, and the premises office. She doesn't have authority to do that. But $12,500 later, she is a chief of protocol, which is a public service job. So the same things that are happening in Guyana happen in Barbados. The Honorable Coretta, I'm grateful that you come here, because if the eyes don't open now, they will remain shut. Everything
I agree.
Chief of staff of the Defense Force, Chief of Staff of Defense Force, a retired man, is back, went to Parliament and changed the law so that he could come back to as Chief of Staff. The same things are happening. So you
Well,
don't know if
Well, our chief of staff, he resigned from the Guyana Defense Force, and a few years later, he was pulled right back into the Guyana.
our Chief of Staff was the guy in the ISS, and he came back. So he didn't.
He's everybody else, bypassed everybody else, and was made the chief of staff. So it's the same wheel plane in one territory, and then it rolls over into another territory, and we keep the wheels rolling like that because we want to be there, and we're all about control.
Is it Kemar?
Yes,
Is
yes.
it Exxon that is doing the oil exploration here in Barbados? Is it Exxon?
No, it's BHP.
BHP? Okay.
Yeah, the Australian company.
Yes,
But
yes.
Kemar, you were making a point, and I don't want to forget that, Mr. Stuart. Go ahead and make the point you were making.
No, I was just the last point I left off was the Sharon Dash Prasad point, which highlights that corruption is rife. Which I mean,
Yeah.
I suspect that he has been paid out. He has been paid out by some big rich government or some rich company or so to vote against his government, and he actually toppled his own government. And what's surprising is that people, and with the racial tensions in Guyana, people will say the PPP is the Indo-Guyanese party, and the ACNU and the coalition is more pro-black, right? And Sharon Dash Prasad being the Indo-Guyanese voting against the Granger government, the optics just look wrong, right? So he can do that, vote against his own government in a no confidence vote, and then he could be given a reward as an ambassador. That sounds like when Tony Moore sold out the unions in Barbados, and she, as a union leader, is now a member of parliament and still the head of the union. Right? Very similar. So we're not too different. We're really brothers and sisters in the Caribbean together, because
corruption.
all of these governments just seem to be corrupt and rife for corruption. Don't matter which Caribbean country you're good at. It's just like being black in the Caribbean.
Like the planet that CARICOM.
Yeah. In the Caribbean,
Somebody said they have a WhatsApp group. Somebody said they have a WhatsApp group that they all, they're working from a WhatsApp group. But I am so glad that we're able to see this pattern, and what is still I could for the life of me could not understand. I remember, as I said, my Guyanese friends were saying, why did the Prime Minister have to say something? Why did she have to say something during the election? And now everything for me is coming together. There is a system and a pattern to it. We are reaping what happened then right now. It is happening now. It's about the oil. My God. My God, my God. Somebody said there, corruption is killing us. The corruption is what is happening here. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? It's such revelations tonight. Mr. Franklyn, you're calling on Barbadians to open their eyes and to see.
You see, but you don't only have to open your eyes now. When your eyes are open.
Go ahead, Caswell.
When your eyes are open, then you have to march. Then you have to protest. Then you have to get out there and let people see that we don't enjoy the corruption that you're out there practicing. We don't want it. But if you sit down and shut up, it will flourish. We got to stop it. Even our little marches here, they took notice. So if we get more people, we get greater numbers out there telling the government, because elections about votes.
Numbers.
And you want to make sure the numbers, yes, thank you. You want those numbers. So if the politicians see numbers out there telling them that we are not happy, they will respond. If you don't turn out, they will say, the boy paying in the mind, a French group.
But you know what they do? Because they politicize the police force, they send the police out there to hung you down and to lock you up and to harass the citizens. You know, that's what they do in my country. Before, when the coalition was in office, persons could have come on the streets and protest for long, long hours. But the PPP being installed again, you persons are scared to do that. As a matter of fact, public servants don't even want to speak to you, speak to me sometimes as an opposition MP, because they're fearful that somebody will see them and tomorrow they'll lose their jobs. So that's the kind of fear they instill in the populace, where you can't, it's not okay for you to assemble and organize and associate with persons. You go out there and quick time, you know, when there's a crime happening, you can't find the police, but as soon as a group of people assemble out there with some placards and so, you see the police right out there, they're waiting. And you know what they do? You know what they do first? They try to get the leader of the protest action and hold on to that person. So when you hold on to the leader, then you know what happened to everybody else. Everybody else gets scared.
Disperse.
People don't want to come out, and that's what they do. So while people are upset with what is happening, they are scared to come out there to say how they feel. Lots and lots of the PPP supporters, I can tell you, they are upset with what they're doing, what their government, the people who they voted for, what they're doing, but they are fearful of coming out there to say things and to put stuff on social media, because they know tomorrow morning they're going to be out of a job. Their contracts are going to be brought to an end. Their homes might go up in flames. So those are the kinds of fear that they instill in people here. And so people are fearful. But let me tell you what, that change is coming. Because right now, as we speak, we had just recently a damning allegation made against one of the ministers of government, Nigel Dharamlal, where an Amerindian girl or an indigenous girl
15
said,
years old. It is an allegation. I saw the video. So it's an allegation. It's a fact.
you know
I
what-
saw the
you know what
video.
happened? The minister was there still performing his duties, and then the minister came out and said to this nation, oh, as a matter of fact, the president said, the minister called him and said, look, I will go and I will proceed on leave so that an investigation could be had. And what do you think happened? Even the police were used. Could you imagine a commander going out there to write statements for a young lady, or allowing a young lady to write statements? You know, and so we had this big back and forth. And when all the protest actions were held in this country, it all boiled down to a young lady coming out there to say, I am the young lady, and nothing of the sort happened. But the very young lady went to the home where she said the act was committed. She took the police there, they took her there. And when she got to the home, she said, they asked her if this was the home. She said yes. She was taken upstairs. Her brother was left downstairs. The television was turned up in the room that they were in. Well, the first thing she said is, when she got there, she said, the place wasn't this color, it's repainted. The place is now repainted. Oh, the furnishing weren't like this. Some have been removed and they rearranged them. And then the young lady came out after to say nothing of the sort happened.
I saw the video, and I saw the horse stick like tool that he was using on that child. Videos don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the video. Let me tell you something. I felt for the poor little thing.
Yes, that young lady, she was isolated from everybody, from her parents, from lawyers who wanted to talk to her, and she had government persons there who were instilling in her fear all the time. They took her to the child care center, one of the child care centers they took her to. And they had her repeating this thing over and over and over and over again. They're questioning this little child. Now, this young girl has been traumatized. And over you're asking her to repeat what she said. And she wasn't saying anything different. She was saying the same story she was relating all the time. And it got to a point where the young lady said, I am tired. I don't want to answer questions anymore. I don't want to hear anything. When they learned that this young lady had a cell phone and she was making contact outside with persons on the outside, you know what happened? They seized her phone and they seized every other phone for the little girls who were in there. All the phones were seized so she could make contact with no one. So here it is. You have a little girl who was taken away from her home, isolated in another environment, and she couldn't make contact with the outside world. But you know what?
Wow.
Minister is now walking the streets and parading himself all over the place. As a matter of fact, I learned recently that he is still occupying the minister's quarters that he was living in, and he still has access to the vehicles that were allotted to him when he was minister. That's the kind of lawlessness we have in this country. You know what? And
Yeah.
not a word again from any of the CARICOM leaders. Well, I guess they don't want to intervene in Guyana's internal politics. So you
Get
Mars,
involved.
see.
Only when it
Marcia,
comes on to the oil. You know, go yes, go ahead, Mr. Stuart.
right. Well, I know the time probably got away, but with Miss McDonald here, I want to also, if we could, touch on the local scene because we have some things to discuss here, some trending topics locally. So hopefully we could have segued into that to give Miss
Right.
McDonald some insights as to what's happening in our
Yes, but
political
I know
landscape.
she's been here. She's been here. Miss McDonald, you have another what 15 minutes or you got to go. I know we went way over time. This got so interesting. Can you stay till we end? All right, go ahead. She said fine.
I am good right here. We talking our business and we're not lying. We're
All
telling the
right.
truth. And so
Yes.
our people need to know what is
Oh.
happening.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Mr. Stewart.
Okay.
Yes. Well, before we jump into Barbados quickly, there was a minister in Antigua who was in the Gaston Brown cabinet, and he was charged for rape. And Gaston Brown kicked him out to the cabinet one time. Boof. Locally, we had a situation, right? What our leader did was to try to remove a sitting deputy speaker of the house. But Caswell know the house rules better, right? So he could tell you that the guy would have had to resign. However, our prime minister just came and announced that Cynthia Ford would have been taking up the position, but it does not work like that, right? Move
As,
on.
as,
Sorry. Right.
no,
To
it doesn't
move
work like
on.
that. You have to a 2/3 majority to remove him, or he has to resign.
Good.
And the rest don't want to go and vote against it, even though they got the 2/3 majority, because there's more in
Alright.
the mortar than the pestle.
But now that he said that, right? Now that he said that they wouldn't want to vote. There's a reason why many of them wouldn't want to vote, because there's a whole list of them that the prime minister is about to kick them out, to get rid of all of them and replace them with new candidates. I can't tell you the last time
You
we've
have some
seen,
names there?
but right, I can't tell you the last time we've seen our Attorney General, Dale Marshall. He is no MIA.
Wow.
And I saw a poster coming out today on social media which says missing persons report, missing in action, and it had a picture of our Attorney General, and it said, "If seen, please call MIA at 246 MIA 246 million." Right? But it's a serious thing. But our Attorney General is missing from the politics of Barbados. One, because he is set to be replaced by a much younger candidate, and two, the Prime Minister appointed a Minister for Crime, or what we call the Crime Minister in Barbados. And that
Okay.
Prime Minister cuts across the responsibilities of the Attorney General. Although the appointed person is not an attorney, it cuts across his responsibilities. And from all reports, he is fuming, angry that he is now taking himself out of the frontline politics and drifting off in the background, probably on his yacht, smoking cigars or so, enjoying his impending retirement that's coming. But
No, you see, the thing is,
he
he is the Attorney General. So not him not being in action is not a bad thing, because if he's Attorney General and he does not know that there is no such thing in our law as a junior minister to a minister, he deserves to be treated that way.
Yeah.
Our constitution does not provide for it. It says that if the minister needs assistance in the ministry, he will be given a parliamentary secretary. But you take a full minister, again, the same peer, the same minister, and it does not work. So if he is Attorney General and he cannot tell the Prime Minister, you can't do that, he has no useful purpose to be in the government of Barbados. You should go and go now.
Well, from all reports, we are seeing that he's about to be replaced as the candidate for the government in the parish of St. Joseph, he along with some others. So we're also hearing some serious reports that one of the members of Parliament, Ralph Karn, is set to leave the sitting government and cross the floor to become the opposition leader.
Wow.
Right? Because
Kemar, I hear there are 12. I hear there
whoa,
are 12 persons,
whoa.
not just one, 12 persons.
Well, so we are seeing
I have
turmoil.
some names here. I have some names.
Well, let's get some names. Let me hear some names.
Yeah, so we have some names here. One of our opposition send us some name, and they're alleging that these people: Peter Phillips, Trevor Prescott, Cynthia Ford, Dale Marshall, Dwight Sutherland, Ralph Thorne, Sonia Brown, William Dugood, as I call him, Dubad, Neil Rowe, Christopher Gibbs, Davison Ishmael, Adrian Ford. Right, so this is what I'm hearing, and that now that they've started the process of the by-election for to remove Cynthia Ford and Dale Marshall. So this is what has come to my phone, and it's what I'm hearing, that there are 12 of them. Go ahead, Kemar.
Trust me, do not believe all those names. You see, I can tell you why. You need 8 years to qualify for a pension, and it is all about their pensions. So unless we're kicking them out, them are going nowhere, they're holding on for a pension. That is what governs their actions in Barbados right now. If you have to hold on for a little bit longer, you hold on to get your 8 years. So anybody above 8 years, I might believe, but not the rest, like Davis and Ishmael, those fellas. Them are going nowhere. If they're going nowhere, it is that they're getting kicked out. It is
we said that about John King. We said that about John King. We said that about John King, and he was in and out in a flash. How could a man step down from a seat?
If you remain in the Senate, you still get your pension. So the 3.5 years in the House, plus the time now in the Senate will qualify him for a pension, because even if he were the minister sitting in the Senate, they twisted up the laws so that they can qualify for pension. So each time they didn't qualify for pension, they changed the law to make themselves qualify. So Senate service now is also pensionable service if you were in the House. And if you're a minister, it is then pensionable anyhow. So he's still in business.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it was said, and I saw some videos with the Attorney General. I think he was standing next to this gentleman here, and I think he was showing him around St. Joseph and some other stuff like that. I think this guy also was doing some construction work on the Hillcrest facilities in St. Joseph as well. And they're saying that this guy is already on the road meeting the people and is set to be the replacement for the Attorney General, who we have not seen in umpteen years. And this is a man who loves to talk, who loves to be upfront, expounding upon his knowledge of the law. So something is definitely up.
At least one of them know the law.
Well, if they appointed Mr. McDonald, they appointed 2 commissioners of police when the law only allowed for 1.
Two
It came
deputies,
to the people.
two deputies,
Two,
two
right,
deputies.
two deputy commissioners of police. When the law only accounted for one. They
Wow.
came and said that the law already provided to have two. Right? Then pressure was put on them. They then came back and brought the legislation to then accommodate for two.
Mm.
Right? So you see the levels of corruption that we share
Well,
in
well,
both Guyana.
we share some of those same ones too, where they are changing the laws because they have a one seat majority. They are bringing so many amendments to fit their purpose. So it's a whole lot of corruption. Again, more corruption in corruption, and everybody in the corruption business. Once you're part of the PPP, that's it. Corruption. More monies. We have here in our country where ministers' father-in-laws have suddenly become contractors. So they're getting huge contracts. You've never seen them anywhere before, but they become overnight contractors and they are winning contracts. You got allegations of the president's wife, her cousins are getting contracts. All of a sudden they become contractors. Somebody's brother-in-law getting contracts. All of a sudden, everybody within the PPP are contractors, so they're winning all these contract bids. And persons are saying, "What is happening? We are all tendering. What happened? We don't qualify for any one of these contract awards. With all these tenders, only a certain group of people." And what you're seeing, you might see a Coretta McDonald, a Coretta McDonald, a Coretta McDonald, Coretta McDonald winning 3 contracts, when you would have had a tender bid opening and hundreds of persons are tendering for these contracts. But Coretta McDonald winning 3, another person winning 3, another person winning another 3, and everybody else on the outskirts, they can't even win 1. But only a certain group of people winning all these contracts.
A minister's wife was the head of the hospital and given preferential treatment and creating a whole position to give to a minister's wife to run the hospital into the ground, basically,
They
because the
went
Ca-
further
hospital is
than
in
that.
shambles.
They went further than the
We
ground.
have
Caswell,
here
Caswell, you know that crossing the floor does not necessarily activate a by election. I mean, we've seen that happen before.
No, it doesn't. You see,
It does
but in
not
the next
activate.
election, you're gonna win. That's the problem. You see, like for instance, Davidson Ishmael. He's a first time candidate. He just took over from Ronald Topping. Let's say he served out this term 5 years. He will now have to contest that election. And 9 chances out of 10, not being a Barbados Labour Party member and supporter anymore, and not being a Dem, he will come at the best third. So not necessarily what cause a by-election. I know it wouldn't cause a by-election, but the next election, he ain't getting in there. The fellows who already have a term in office, 3 years or 3.5 years or whatever the case may be, then they can go and serve this second term now and get their pensions in opposition. But I'm talking about the people who are newcomers. Them are going nowhere. I saw the question the fellow was asking there just now too, and I was going to respond to it. They're not going anywhere. I know their selfishness. I know their greed. That is why they get their pensions at age 50, 50, and they take everybody else to 68. You think these people sweet?
Well, Caswell, if you see Ralph Thorne though, I would believe that because Ralph Thorne gave some biting speeches in the
Yes,
Parliament
No,
of
no,
Barbados
no.
against.
Ralph Thorne.
yes,
Ralph Thorne is
very
different.
recently,
Ralph Thorne is
very
different.
recently.
He is not going to be dependent
And they're
on
trying to kick him out to his seat.
right. He is not going to be dependent on a parliamentary pension. He is very well off. Okay, so he is one of the people who can stand on his own. So he is the exception. So, but some of these other people you know nothing about. Ralph is a very good attorney. My mom, he was down in Guyana, during the court case.
But isn't he the attorney? Isn't he the attorney for the what's the name of the guy?
Opposition.
No, the one that was accused with Motley's brother's death. Isn't he his attorney?
Sahi
Yes,
Griffith.
yes, yeah,
Yes,
he is the attorney for the guy who they
the
claim.
coroner. He's the attorney for the
Right.
coroner.
No, no,
Ralph
no,
is
you know,
also
no,
Nero's attorney.
no,
If you remember the video that was circulating with the Prime Minister cursing off the people saying that under no circumstances, if Michael
Michael
Lashley
Ashley.
represent Nero, that he can't get a cent from them and he will not run as a candidate again. And then we see she had a problem with Ralph representing because she said Ralph went into a courtroom to try a criminal case. And now we are seeing Ralph basically going against the wishes of the Prime Minister in terms of representing um, their own colleagues who's having a legal challenge.
Yeah. Well, guys, I mean, this. I love what's happening because we were able to hear from Honorable Coretta McDonald about what's happening in Guyana, and she got a little sneak peek of what's happening in Barbados. And I think
Mhm.
there are two things that happened tonight that are very, very key. And I want to close off with these comments because we're only a minute to 10. And the fact is that it is the same playbook. So I think we understand that, right, madam? We understand, and reverend, understand it's one playbook. The next thing is what Dr. Ferdinand Nichols said about the LGBTQ agenda, and we're back at this again, and it's not because we just want to talk about it. The point is that, and it's not the people, madam, it's the agenda. There is an
Yep.
agenda, and they
That's
are
it.
pushing a
That's it.
certain thing, and the people that are behind it are very evil, very evil. The agenda, because when you look at some of the leadership of this country, of these countries, some of our top leaders are involved in that kind of lifestyle, and
Mhm.
they have handpicked to push an agenda, okay, which is separate from the people themselves. And I think that that is important. And I want to just end with this. In Barbados, we have coming up this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have a symposium, and I'm hoping that people are registering for it, because this is important. We're going to talk about the agenda. We're going to love the people, but we're going to talk about the agenda. We're going to address issues of family, gender, and sexuality in Barbados and the Caribbean. I'm going to send you a link, Honorable
Thank
McDonald, and to see if you can come on in, because we have some top people from Focus on the Family. They're going to come and talk about this agenda and help us to understand how wide this is, and how vast it is, and how it's trying to basically, we're trying to put a cloud all over all of our countries and to influence us. Dr. Angelise, she's a therapist, and she's going to talk to parents who, like you were saying, Madam McDonald, you were talking about some of the young people in Guyana who are struggling, and they're feeling they're from another gender. Dr. Angelis is going to come, and in Barbados, and she's going to be talking to us about that, and how when children suffer with that issue of having same-sex attraction, what do they do? And as a teacher, as a mom, as a counselor, how do you help that child?
that.
And
Yeah.
so those are some of the issues that are going to be dealt with. So I will definitely send you a link, because it is throughout the Caribbean. And instead of us trying to help our young people, we are trying to put a label on them. And I think that is because that's the agenda, and we have Philippa Davis, who's going to talk about marriage and the importance of marriage, and how marriage, encouraging marriage in a country can help your GDP. Because you're going to have less crime, you're going to have peace, and so all of these things that's going to happen. Bishop Dr. Vincent Gill from Trinidad is coming as well. So it's going to be really, really great. How do you register? You can register by going to the Marcia Week show. And let me just show you. Let me show you that before we go tonight. I want to show you because this, we talk a lot, and some, we need to be able to provide solutions. Dr. Purdy, we need to be able to provide solutions to for our people. And so that is what we're after. And you can go to the marciaweekshow.com to register. Go to the marciaweekshow.com to register. And I'm just trying to find that link just before we close. And yes, it's right here. It is right here. Let me see if that will show up on the screen.
I think I
Um,
think I just posted it as well in the.
hope you can see the screen. Yeah. So Marquise is
Yes.
asking, so I'm just trying to answer the question from Marquise. Okay. So is asking how we can register. So if you go to the marciaweekshow.com, and there's a form there for registration. This is the registration form that's here. And when you click in this section, you will see the speaker's bio and the symposium topics. That will be there right at the marciaweekshow.com. But guys, let's not just talk about it. But let's do something about it. You see this happening in Guyana as well, right? It's the same thing that's happening in Guyana.
Yep.
Same thing that is happening in Guyana. So we want to make sure we're making this Caribbean. So I'll make sure you get a link, madam, and make sure that you get a link for sure. All right. So this is where you can register for this symposium. Very, very important. Very important. And I want to take this time to thank everybody for coming on tonight.
Before you do that, Marcia, look at your phone.
And sharing with us and the education we got. Yes. Look at
Look
my
at your phone,
phone.
Marcia,
Oh
before
Lord,
you
what is he coming with now? What is this?
before you there.
Well, while you're looking at your phone, Marcy, just let me also say
Oh,
that that space is limited, and you have to register
I'm gonna
you
send
have
it
to
to
register by
Coretta. I'll
Wednesday.
send it to Coretta. Yes, go ahead. Yes, we have to register by Wednesday.
By
Coretta,
Wednesday,
check
yeah.
your phone. We will go out with a laugh. Yes,
Well, she
go
knows. She
by
knows that.
Wednesday. It
She
goes
knows about
right
that.
into.
She knows about that.
Listen, Mr. Stuart, Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, Mr. Franklyn, Honorable Coretta McDonald, thank you so very, very much. This
You're
was
so
so
welcome.
amazing tonight. This was CARICOM tonight, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you all so very much for being here, joining with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the symposium on the weekend, Friday and Saturday. We have to please come on out. God bless you all. We love you. Bye bye. God bless. Bye bye.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.